Right, welcome everybody to Making Changes Together webinar day 2. So if you happen to have missed Mondays, they will be going onto our YouTube channel and shared on our Facebook and our website and things like that. So we're all getting recorded. So yes, if I could just remind everybody that microphones and things off unless you're speaking, and then it's easier for me so I can get everybody up on the screen who's a speaker. And I think that's all. We do have a bit of a lunch break, which there'll be a presentation running during the lunch break. And we have a raffle later at the end for a few little goodies. But yes, I think we'll get started. So if I just try and see if I can spotlight you, Sarah, so you're up for everybody to see. It's all yours.
Thank you, and can I say thanks very much for inviting me along to talk today about the changes to the NHS and the white paper. I'm just going to get my presentation on screen so we can all see that. Bear with me. The wonders of technology. We never thought a year ago we would be doing this, did we? All right, and just get this working. Right, can everybody see that now?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'll make a start. So my name's Sarah Burns, and I'm responsible for commissioning most NHS and care services in County Durham. So prior to last March, I worked just for the NHS, and 1st of March last year, I took up a joint role with responsibility for commissioning social care services for adults, children, etc. across the local authority too. And I'll tell you why I think that's important as part of this presentation. So what I'm going to talk a bit about is the background to the white paper, some of the main proposals, what it means for us in County Durham and what it might mean for you as an organisation, for parents, for families. Some of the work we're doing in County Durham and how we're developing a new partnership governance structure in line with the changes to NHS organisations. Some of the work that we're doing and we're developing, and then an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end. So thinking about the white paper and why it's been developed, we have NHS activity is increasing by 3% each year. That's an average. So for some services that increase is less, and for others it is significantly more. And we do have the impact of COVID on that, which I'll touch on later. We've got a growing and an ageing population, but we also have children who are surviving with a range of complex conditions that perhaps wouldn't have due to medical advances. So our population is growing and it's becoming more complex. And across our county, almost half of our population live in the 30% most deprived wards and areas in the country. And we all know the impact that deprivation has on health and well-being.
Apologies, Sarah, sorry to interrupt you. Are you flicking through the slides? Because it's still only on the first one on our screens.
I am flicking, yes, I am.
All I could see on the screen is the actual start, so I wonder if the presentation opened up in the window.
Okay, let me try again. There, can you? Oh, I wonder if that's...
Maybe if you click on the slide number 2 to the left, it might it'll go on to the next one. Yeah, that should be fine. Just going down like that, yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Isn't technology great?
Oh yes, we had lots of glitches on Monday. It's the joys of technology. Thank you.
Give us another 12 months and we'll be experts. So we have much more complex cases, longer life expectancy and technological advances. So technology, medications, treatments, and a range of other things are helping our survival rates. And what we see in County Durham compared to the rest of the country and also across County Durham is that health inequalities, our impact on health inequalities isn't as good as we'd hoped. So we have things like people having lower life expectancy, living until we talk about life expectancy, so dying earlier than you would expect, or than the rest of people in the rest of the country, but having a healthy life expectancy, so enjoying good health for less than other areas of the country. And health inequalities, they are unfair differences in the population that we really need to get a grip on. So think about COVID. It's had a huge impact on health services. A year ago, a lot of services had to stand down and move to frontline delivery to help the NHS to get through COVID. It's had a huge impact on people and on staff. We have to plan for our recovery, but we also have to be ready if there are further outbreaks or further waves of COVID. But as a result, we've got a significant backlog, waiting lists that have built up across a range of services, and we need to tackle that. Staff are burnt out, they're exhausted, and we need to make sure that we protect their health. And after what's been a very challenging year to 14, 15 months. We can see that as people access services post-COVID, there are inequalities in that there are inequalities in people who are coming forward to access services, and that's something we need to actively target. And what COVID told us is that our arrangements across the NHS and also across health and care are complex. Sometimes there are so many people involved in service delivery and service planning that it's often hard, things fall between the cracks, and it can be hard to move forward and get things done. But what it did show and highlight is the importance of everybody working together, and I can say that absolutely in my role, working for both the local authority and the NHS has unlocked so many doors and helped us to get more things done and realise we need to just cut through all of the nonsense sometimes, work together and work out what is the right thing to do, rather than focus too much on what our governance and our rules say we could, can or should do. That we can't really separate health and social care. Very rarely do people have one need, they have multiple needs. And as a result of operating the two services separately, we are causing duplication, frustration and waste in the system, and we need to address that. We're going to be working on the vaccination programme for some time, making really good progress, but actually we don't know what the ongoing vaccination requirements are going to be, and that takes up a lot of time of our health system to deliver that. And it's made us all think really differently about the way we work, who we work with, how we do things. And I can certainly say that's true for me and my colleagues in County Durham. And I think we look at this from Durham as we work well in partnership. When I look in other areas, we have strong, mature partnerships, but we can always go that little bit further, because organisational boundaries do still get in the way of what's best for people at times, and that's really unacceptable. So thinking about what the proposals are in the white paper, it's about working together and supporting integration. So joining up parts of the NHS better. So you can think about specialised commissioning, local commissioning, and all of the different agencies involved there. They are perhaps unnecessary divides. Supporting integration between the NHS and partners. And I know I talk a lot about the NHS and social care, but really that has to be broader. It has to be with the voluntary sector, with communities, for children, young people, families, adults, whoever they are. We need to work better together. We need to reduce bureaucracy. So have some of the things that are talked about in the white paper are about reducing some of our procurement requirements and procurement legislation. And there's a national consultation on that at the moment. But firstly, we have to put joined up care first. We have to put people first. And then around improving accountability and enhancing public confidence. So make sure care is delivered in the most appropriate and convenient setting, one that works for people receiving services, not those delivering them. And empower people to work together, to do things differently, to look at things differently. So there are some sort of key principles in the white paper around our duty to collaborate, so across the health and care system. Some of the statutory changes, so CCGs will cease to be on the 1st of April next year and will be replaced by an integrated care system board, which in our area that covers the North East and North Cumbria, but very much having strong place-based working, and I'll come to that. Being better at sharing data, and we know through COVID, some of the work we did on population health management, the barriers to sharing information were broken down, and it helped us identify people who needed additional support in a really effective way. And we have to look at quality of services, and I look at that from two angles. The quality of the service that's delivered in general, and the quality and the outcomes for the individual that receives that services. They're both of equal importance. So what does that mean for us in Durham? So the CCG has a budget. It's actually just over £1 billion worth of funding that County Durham CCG gets to spend on health services. And that organisation will cease to exist from April of next year, and the new Integrated Care System Board will replace that. But below that, we'll have health and care partnerships with the council and the voluntary sector. As yet, the leadership arrangements for the integrated care system haven't been agreed. People haven't been appointed other than Salim Donaldson, who was there as the independent chair. We're expecting guidance on the appointment process next month. But the key, because the ICS, North East and North Cumbria, it's huge, it's enormous. And what's important to us, I work for the NHS, so the health and the success of all of the NHS is important to me, but I'm focused on County Durham. My job and my objectives that I'm monitored against are about improving health and care for people living in County Durham. And we know that with 13 local authorities, all of the health provision, voluntary sector provision, we can't look at that across the North East and North Cumbria, it's too big. So we need to work at place, and place for us is County Durham, it's the local authority area. We have a range of new governance that we are looking to put in place in County Durham to support the ICS structure. We've got what we think is right, but we're still waiting for that national guidance before that is absolutely finalised. And as part of that on here is, as part of the white paper, there's going to be new assurance regimes for social care in councils. So you'll be aware for children's services, there were very robust assurance regimes, but less so for adult social care services. And that is something that will be introduced. So again, what this means is, for us, how much will be delegated to place? We are a mature, strong partnership in County Durham, strong positive partnership arrangements. We'd like as much as possible delegated to place so we can take those decisions locally. Within the ICS, because it's so big, there are 4 ICPs, integrated care partnerships, and the areas they cover are North Cumbria, Northumberland, Newcastle, North Tyneside and Gateshead. County Durham is with Sunderland and South Tyneside in what we call Central ICP, and Tees Valley and the authorities there form the 4th. But what we're not clear yet is what arrangements there'll be at ICP level. Will we just have an ICS in place, or will there be some sort of intermediate governance arrangements within the ICP for that Sunderland and South Tyneside Durham area? That's currently unknown. The CCG staff will transfer to the ICS. So for them and people like me, the name of the employer when I get my paycheck will change, but I'm likely to be doing pretty much the same thing. We'll continue our partnership arrangements across the system in County Durham, and we'll look to strengthen them. For organisations, for yourself, what it'll mean is you may have some interaction at an ICS level, but in County Durham, we'll still be having all of those discussions about what our needs are, what our challenges are, what we need to do to overcome them in County Durham, because that's really, really important. As I said, we're looking to see how we can keep as much decision making and financial control within County Durham, and our partners, so our large NHS trusts, the council and the CCG are all working together to try to secure that. We think that we are best placed to make decisions about Durham. We want to give the ICS confidence that we have appropriate decision-making arrangements, partnership decision-making arrangements to achieve that successfully. We want to build on our track record of integration of services. We've done a lot of work for adults and older people, and work is starting now, delayed slightly due to COVID, but starting on now on how we can better integrate services for children and young people. We are looking how we can influence the ICS, all of us as partners. We are working closely with staff because clearly it's an uncertain time for staff, but I have to say we are used to it. The NHS reorganises usually every 3 to 4 years. So we've been 8 years as CCGs, so we've kind of had a good run at it. And we're looking at the care partnerships we need to have locally. So previously, the CCG, the Acute Trust, the Council will all have their own governance making arrangements. They're statutory and they stay in place, but what we're starting to do is meet in common. So senior officers of all of those organisations have a level of delegated authority that they carry around with them, and we can meet in common and we can make collective decisions together. And it's going to look a bit like this. So this is our governance structure. We'll have that executive committee, which is in the centre there, that I just described, which reports into the Health and Wellbeing Board, but also the individual organisations. At the moment, it's the CCG, that'll become the ICS. There are our trust boards and there are our council committees. And underneath that exec, we'll have 4 partnership boards. So we'll have a partnership board for mental health, learning disabilities and autism, children, young people and families, acute services, and that's for physical health, acute services, and a primary community care and social care partnership board. And new things that will happen on that executive is that we'll have VCS representatives. We link in a lot with them, but they're not necessarily involved in our governance and decision making. So I think this is a really positive development that puts VCS on the same footing as the chief exec of the council, the chief officer of the CCG. In terms of integration, keeping doing what we're doing isn't an option. We know that through COVID, we achieve more when we work together. We know that COVID has made worse some of those persistent health inequalities in Durham, and we really need to get a grip on that. We've got the challenge of the impact of COVID, so long COVID on both physical and mental health, but we're also seeing hugely increased demand on services as we come out of lockdown. And we've got to make sure that services can continue. They're not overwhelmed, but people get the help and support that they need. We're going to be developing our integration programs across those 4 boards. And that's really the key projects where we need to work together differently to make services a success and continue to work together as partners. So in terms of our next steps, we're going to continue working with the ICS, give them confidence that we can make decisions on Durham locally, that we've got the right partners involved to make decisions together. Get those care partnership structures up and running. The first meeting of the joint executive is next Tuesday. And those programme boards, many of them are already in place and have morphed slightly to fit with this new governance. We're going to agree our integration programmes for those 4 work streams and continue to work together and make sure with any service change amongst this that people receiving support or services aren't affected. And that's the most important thing for me and my colleagues, is that this reorganisation happens in the background and it doesn't impact on delivery of service and support. So that's a bit of an overview from me. Appreciate it's an awful lot of information. And as usual, I do apologise, in the NHS, we do talk in acronyms. So if there's anything I've said that you require clarity on, please let me know.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. At present, I can't see any questions, but I'm sure we'll get questions and follow-ups and things like that after this, because yes, it was a lot to digest. The only thing that I'm a bit concerned about is, although it all sounds positive and moving in the, make sure everything's moving in the right direction together and things like that, I'm still a little bit concerned that it's taken a while. So it's like we could have done with this years ago. Do you know what I mean? Although we are moving in the right direction and things like that, it seems to be forever waiting.
And I think positively in Durham, we've got a number. I think we all recognise that we need to work together to make change and work in partnership and stop some of the artificial divides. There's a number of joint posts. I'm not the only person who's joint across health and social care. I have other colleagues with me, and I think that nationally people were recognising we need to work in an integrated way. And COVID, it's hard to think of positives from COVID, but actually the positive for me is it shone a light on how much difference we make when we just cut through all the rubbish and work together. And that's the positive. There's no going back from that now. So yes, it is, everything's slow. It's like turning a super tanker. But I think we'll get there.
Yeah, definitely. It didn't help that COVID decided to appear. So yeah, it just threw a spanner in the works of everything, didn't it? Yeah. If you give us 1 sec, I've just noticed a question pop up. Where do children who are looked after, adopted with autism fit into the terms of programme board, as potentially they are included in 2?
And they would fit under the Children, Young People and Families board. So there are some issues that run across multiple partners and different work streams, but where it makes sense, we'll look at that once rather than twice, and it'll be work that we do jointly with colleagues from the Mental Health and Learning Disability and Autism Partnership Board and Children, Young People and Families working together. So we'll look to do it once rather than twice.
Yes, which is always a godsend for saving time. But thank you very much, Sarah. We've just had a reply saying thank you. Thank you very much for joining us, and no doubt we'll be in touch with more questions and things for you.
No problem at all. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Right. Right. Next up we have Ruth.
Yeah, so I am Ruth and I'm a short break solutions officer for Durham County Council. So some families have told us they feel overwhelmed with information and they don't always know what's going on, which could be of interest to their family, and others are telling us that family needs a more personalised solution suitable to their needs. So in response to that feedback from families, I created my role. So my role is to provide parents, carers and professionals with a central point of contact to support families to explore the range of the universal community short breaks offered across County Durham. So the aim of short break solutions is to support families to make their own choice about accessing a community activity for children and young people with SEND, to allow carers, parents a short break from their caring role. So our vision is that all children and young people with special educational needs and or disabilities in County Durham are an important part of their local community, and that these activities are inclusive. So whilst children and young people are taking part in school activities, this allows a short and natural break for parents, carers to catch up with everyday activities. So attend a physical session, maintain and develop social networks. A child and young person can benefit from developing new interests, keeping fit, social networks with peers and taking part in hobbies. So I'll assist families in exploring the universal community activities in the local offer in the first instance, so things that are in their local area already. I'll work with the family to understand barriers that they're experiencing and accessing their local community. For those families who are unable to access what's on within the local offer, then the local authority and health partners fund a number of providers to deliver an inclusive community short break offer. So these providers have additional training to support children and young people with a range of special educational needs and disabilities. So I'll be aiming to capture the needs of the families to understand and then identify any gaps in the services. So the frequency and duration of short breaks can vary. It can be attending an after school club within their community, such as a youth club, scouts, things like that. A virtual activity, for an activity park, attending a leisure facility for a few hours a week. So what we're currently offering at the moment, our activities include like your virtual activities, sort of range of online activities, including gaming communities, cookery sessions, fitness, bingo, discos and pamper parties. So some of these activities can be done individually or as part of an online group. We also have our Keeping Families Connected. So that's one of our providers, provides regular activity packs to families. The packs can be linked to online activities or doing your own time. We also host a family book club, online youth club, arts and crafts club as well. So once restrictions are lifted, they are planning on a phased return of their face-to-face activities for the whole family to join in, like picnic in the park and things like that. So there is also our physical activity programs. That's where your child or young person can attend an activity group every Saturday for 5 weeks at a cost of £5 a session. And then it'll be another 5 weeks virtual after that. So the sessions are morning from 10 a.m. till 12:30 and afternoon from 1:30 till 4 p.m. And they're held at Zeam, Walsingham, Shotley Bridge and Spennymoor. So if you feel that you are a family or know a family in need of a short break from their caring role but unsure how to get one whilst within the family home environment or outdoors within guidelines, please contact Short Break Solutions by phoning 03000 260 or emailing shortbreaksolutions@durham.gov.uk. And if you have any questions at all, please ask or give me a call. And I'll be more than happy to help. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ruth. Well, you'd think I'd be used to this by now, clicking and transferring people on and off. But no, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Right, next up we have we have Terry Carson Bland. Unfortunately, she couldn't attend today, but I do have, we do have a little video from Terry. Hopefully you can all see that.
Hello there, good morning everyone. Thank you for inviting me along to the MCT conference. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Terry Carson Bland. I'm one of the core managers of the casework team in Durham County Council, and I'm also the chairperson for the Preparing for Adulthood local area group. So I'm here today to present our first final version really of our first Preparing for Adulthood Outcomes Toolkit. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background to how this came about and a little bit of a whistle-stop tour through the toolkit this morning. So really, it came from a couple of years ago. I do still meet with the MCT writing group quite regularly, and we were talking about preparing for adulthood. And even though there's been a national outcomes toolkit, which is on the local offer, there was a lot of parents and even professionals that hadn't ever seen that. And we know how important it is for our children and young people as they grow older to think more about how preparing for adulthood outcomes within EHC plans. So one of the things we talked about was having our own in County Durham, so sort of personalising it to how we wanted to do it. So that was the very beginning. So when we started looking at the national toolkit, one of the first things the parents didn't like, and this was supported by professionals as well quite early, was the key stages that they were put in from early years, key stage 1, key stage 2, up to post-19. And we didn't really like that because you were sort of putting a child or a young person in a pigeonhole of age, and it shouldn't be about age, it should be about stage of development. So that was one of the first things that we came from that meeting about, of how we wanted this toolkit to be and to look like. So after that first meeting with MCT, I arranged some working parties. So we've had schools, colleges, post-16 providers, and also specialist advisory teachers working on this. And through different drafts, I've been meeting with the MCT writing group, and we finally agreed and signed it off a few weeks ago. So I'm really, really pleased we've got to this point, and particularly as it's been quite a long time now in development because of the COVID situation. I think we've done really well to get it to this point. Okay, so just before I go into a little bit about the introduction, just to explain a little bit about the photographs, and we've had permission to share these, but you may know some of these children, young people, but these are real life children, young people in County Durham, working in our schools and colleges and post-16 providers on their preparing for adulthood outcomes. So we wanted to show that in every section. Okay, so I'm just going to move down to the introduction. I've only got a small slot today, so obviously I'm only just going to pick out a few things on here. So I said earlier about the national document being available on the local offer, and from 2014, but also goes back to the code of practice as well. So in the code of practice, it says that we should be preparing for adulthood from the earliest of years. So we would class that as early years in a school or nursery situation. Right up to age 25 if a young person still has a plan by then. However, it's you must be very explicit in a plan from year 9 onwards. So that's one of the things we wanted to get out of this, to be able to start embedding this, particularly for the older young adults. But actually, when we talk to parents and professionals, they both had the same view, really, that we shouldn't just do it from year 9 onwards, we should do it from the whole age range. So this is classed as 0 to 25, but in reality, it's from children in nursery age, from 2-year-old, where they can have an EHC plan. So a little bit about outcomes, and they very much link to the aspirations of a child and a young person, but they also, in an EHC plan, link to their special educational needs and also the special educational provision as well. And for those of you who haven't been around much on the Preparing for Adulthood, there are 4 pathways. At the bottom of this page, it explains those 4: good health, friendships, relationships and community, independent living and employment. Once we get to the employment section, I'll talk a little bit more about that because we've personalised that a little bit more to County Durham. Okay, I'm just moving on, and just a little bit more about outcomes and how settings and parents and young people can use this tool. So a little bit about why the outcomes are important in a plan. It's section E of a EHC plan. But we've got to think about it. Where do we want our children and young people to be in 2, 3, 5, 8 years? So if they can get to these outcomes, what will help them achieve in life? What can it make possible for them, and so on? So it's very much about linked to those aspirations, as I've said earlier, about what's important to them now, what's important to the future for them. And a little bit about the tool, and it probably won't make much sense until you really start looking at it. But when you have a look at this, it's not, we just don't want it to be a bank of statements. We want it to be a usable document. So we wouldn't expect a school just to take out 6 outcomes and plonk them into a plan. It's very much about a starting point for discussion. So having a look at some of the statements in this toolkit and thinking about how they could be adapted and tweaked for the individual child or young person. And, you know, I would hope that when this is known more and embedded into school sort of reviews, particularly annual reviews, you know, parents and young people should be looking at this when they're preparing for their own annual review as well, and coming along to that annual review meeting with their own ideas. And I want parents and young people to feel empowered by this, and that you'll have an equal voice in this. So it's not just a school or a college deciding what outcomes they want for the young person. It's the young person and the parents themselves. Okay, so moving into the main body of it, as I say, there's 4 areas, and we're starting with good health. And as I said before, some really lovely photos of some of our young people in Durham going about the business, doing loads of lovely things around food and health and well-being. Okay, so in the majority of cases, we've kept the same subheadings in the green boxes there as the national document. There are a few that we've changed or adapted for ourselves. So we've got a couple on each page. If you go and have a look on the local offer where this is, it looks slightly different. There's 1 in every page, but it's all the same content. So general health and managing health needs, and also diet. So we don't see something like this very much in EHC plans, particularly from health professionals, and that's one of the things we'll be looking at in the coming months, of trying to get health professionals and more social care professionals on board in using this. But I already had a call last week from a post-16 provider who thinks this is great, and they're going to be using it all the way through, and that's also with their social care colleagues as well. So I was over the moon to hear that. The same sort of response from other settings. Okay, so then moving on to the second page of good health, we've got puberty, relationships and sex education, and smoking, drugs and alcohol. And I don't want you to sort of worry at this point. First of all, remember this goes up to 25, so we wouldn't expect, you know, a younger person, a child to have outcomes around this. It's only an outcome if it's appropriate to that child or young person. And you don't even have to have 1 or 2 outcomes in each of the Preparing for Adulthood pathways. It might be necessary to have a few outcomes under independent living and a few under life or employment skills. So there's no need to have 1 in every one. However, I think it is good practice to think about the young person or child in a holistic way and look at the whole 4 pathways when we annually reviewing an EHC plan. And then finally, the last 2 sections in good health are mental health and well-being, and physical and sensory processing. Just a little note about the physical and sensory. We will see some references at times in the toolkit around either physical difficulties or visual or hearing impairment, because they'll have specific outcomes that they may need to have. So there are a few references to that independently. As you can see at the bottom of the mental health, wherever possible, we've cross-referenced statements and outcomes with other areas because there is an overlap and sometimes they don't just sit neatly into one area. So wherever we can, we have referenced those. Okay, so moving on to the second pathway, the friends, relationships and community. And just a little sort of note as well, the order that we have them isn't the same as the national agenda. They start with employment, but actually right from the very beginning, the first meeting with parents, they said we didn't like that order. We need to think about good health first, then the friendships and relationships and being in the community, then independent living, and then employment. So that's what we've done with this. Okay, so the sections in the friendships and relationships one, social interactions, which is obvious as part of this, legal and criminal justice system, and services. So again, those were all from the national document. It doesn't mean that we have to keep them like that. So when we review this next year, we might tweak the headings or tweak the statements in here. And then moving on to keeping safe. Now, we've gone through many edits and the parents of the MCT writing group will be testament to this. We've seen a number of edits to this and some of them were pages and pages long. But we felt that this was such a big area and parents wanted this keeping separate, so online, separate to the community. So lots of things in the online that's relevant to even younger children now. So I think this is a really good part of the toolkit, really. I mentioned earlier about the visual impairment and the hearing impairment. So there's specific mention there at the bottom of keeping safe. So obviously that fits in really well with being in the community safely. Okay, moving on to the third section, independent living. And the sections in there are self-care and managing money. And the self-care one, well, both of these are really good examples of how we've tried to stage some of the statements, so a little bit chronologically, if we can. So recognising the need to use the toilet right at the sort of beginning, going down to the bottom two in self-care where young people and children can take care of themselves and be able to maintain their own equipment. But that doesn't mean that recognising the need to use the toilet is a 3-year-old. It could be an 8-year-old, it could be a 14-year-old. And that, again, that's why we took out of the key stages and the age groups for this. So it could be inclusive to everyone. And you can see that on the managing the money. So we go right from the beginning of recognising via the coins and notes, right down to managing pay and benefits and understanding bills. And again, we're not expecting young people to be able to do all of these things. They're just examples of a range of things, a range of outcomes that schools and parents and young people could choose. And then moving on to a little bit more in the home, so independence in the home, a little bit around kitchen safety as well, learn about being able to cook meals and make meals and so on. And then right to the top end of the age range, about living arrangements. And again, that could be living in supported living or semi-independent living. So we're trying to cover the whole age range when we're looking at these outcomes. And then finally, the last one, which nationally is called employment. And we had a lot of discussion about this right even from the very beginning. And quite rightly so, some parents who've got young children with EHC plans see the word employment in the outcome section, which is understandable. But when we actually unpicked what it meant, really what we're talking about, we're not saying that every child and young person needs to have a full-time job at the end of an EHC plan or at age 25. What we're saying is we want to try to help them build up the skills to be able to have some access to the world of work. So when we decided that we were going to do this for the whole age range, from 2 to 25, we did think, should we have an interchangeable term that we could take off for the individual child or young person's plan? So we went through a few sort of suggestions like functional skills, key skills, but we liked life skills. So that's why it's there like it is. And, over time, we might start with life skills, and when they get to secondary school or year 9, we might change that to employment skills. For some young people, employment might not be the outcome that is right for them. So we could keep life skills all the way through. So we don't need to worry about the heading. It's about getting the right outcome. Okay, so final bit, literacy and numeracy. And again, we had a little bit of to and fro about the words, and parents preferred the word practical. And I think that's a really good term to use for this. So it's very much about practical literacy and numeracy. It's not so much about stories and writing stories and so on. It's about functional skills that they could use throughout their lives. So that could be writing forms, completing forms, some spelling of basic words and so on. But as they get older, that will then, especially if you're in a post-16 provider, you'll start using literacy and numeracy more towards the world of work. So that could be to do with hairdressing courses or retail courses and so on. And then there's quite a lot on the next bit. This was quite difficult to try to get all together. But we wanted an area where we hadn't covered, and that was things like in the learning skills. So attention and concentration, organisation, memory, and there's also one of the next page called motivation. And we work together to try to find the right place to put those, but we've put them there. I think they work well in this part because they are all life skills that we all need. Then a little bit in the middle about communication. So that's more about a child's speech, and then as they grow older, being able to understand and what people are saying to them, and then being able to respond to them. So again, that's going right down from nursery upwards. And then moving into the final one, which is really important for all of our children and young people, managing transitions. And that could be from classroom to classroom when they might be 6 to 7, or it could be from building to building, or it could be from college to the world of work. And so that was a really important one. And one of the things that we talked about is at the bottom of that section was about not just the environmental changes, but the emotional changes that young people will go through, as we all do when we transition into somewhere. Okay, and then finally, this was a one that took us a little while to do, and this was the last part that we did it with, and we talked to specialists and people who've had a lot of experience in careers, and also Durham Works staff as well. So we ended up putting it into 4 sections, and again, a little bit of chronology. So in the first section, career and self-development, if you have a look at, say, the 3rd bullet point, even from reception or year 1, children have visits from police officers or fire officers, and so they're getting an idea really from that young age about jobs that are out there. Going down through that section, very much about what skills and qualities children and young people have, and then moving down into the career exploration. So as they get older into secondary school, year 8, year 9, thinking about what courses they might need to do in Key Stage 4, which whether it be entry level, functional skills, GCSEs, and thinking about the next step all of the way. And this really fits in with the aspirations for a young person or a child, thinking about where they want to be in the next stage of their lives. And then moving to the right, the moving closer to work. So again, knowing more about employment in their areas, their local communities and so on. Maybe being part of things like social enterprise or business ambassador schemes. And, even from Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5, wanting to achieve some qualifications, again, to get them to the next level. So at the moment, we do have a few of those type of outcomes, but we don't have the rest of them. So we have, achieve 5 GCSEs, but actually it doesn't have the rest of them around that to help them move to the next stage. And then finally, with career management. And again, I just want to make the point, we're not expecting all of our children to get full-time, children and young people to get full-time jobs. It could be going on to a college course or even university and being able to apply for things like supported internships, apprenticeships, traineeships, and voluntary work. So that's where we wanted to finish that, really. So it's about young people being able to apply for jobs themselves. So I know that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. This toolkit is on the local offer, and the MCT website has a link to that. So what I would love you to be able to do is go away, and if you've got 10-15 minutes at some point, have a little look at this in a bit. Hopefully this has given you a bit of an overview of it, what it's for. But what I would ask you to do is a couple of things. So, if your young person can access this with you, ask them, talk a little bit about what's in it. What I would expect for schools and colleges, we are launching this in the summer term with the expectation that schools and colleges will be using this and start to embed this from September onwards. So if you're young, particularly if your child is year 9 and upwards, I would expect there to be some talking and discussion around the Preparing for Adulthood outcomes as part of or in preparation for their annual review of an EHC plan. And, you should be, once you know a little bit more about this, you need to put your views across about and your child's views about what outcomes that they want in the plan as well. So like other things, like the toolkit that I've presented to you before, this isn't just set in stone now. So we'll give this a go for a year. About this time next year, I will set up a little working party with some parents, with some schools and post-16 providers, and let's review how it's gone. Is it getting known out there? Do parents know about it? To think that not hardly anybody even knew about the National Toolkit, I want that to be different this time next year. I want this to be known. But importantly, is it being used? And actually, are we getting better outcomes for our young people? Because that's why we're here. That's the job that we're doing. So if you've got any feedback within this next year, even if you've just read it and you want to make a comment, or you have some experience of using it over an annual review with your child, please let MCT know, and I meet with them regularly, and I'll get that feedback and take that on board for the next draft next year. Okay, as I say, I know that was a quick skim through it today. I really appreciate your time, and I will hopefully see you at the next conference, and enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye.
Just before I introduce Amy, Sarah's just got a little slide to share from earlier on when Ruth was on from Short Break. This is their details. Just in case anybody who's like watching it back and they can't quite hear her or anything like that. Just wanted to pop our details on there for you to see. Thank you very much. And next up we have Amy.
Hello.
From Century Place. Hello.
Hiya, can you hear us? Yeah, great. You can see us this time as well.
Yes, I need to turn my camera off and then everybody will be able to see you better.
No problem. Right. Come on. Right. My name is Amy Henderson, and I'm one of the trustees from the Sensory Place. We were established back in 2019, and basically our organisation supports children with sensory needs from all different abilities across the North East. We did start off sort of in the County Durham area, but it has grown, and we do have members kind of through Sunderland, and even sort of branching sort of further sort of towards Newcastle and further down, towards Middlesbrough and Darlington and things as well. But predominantly it is County Durham based. Now, there's no sort of criteria to join and register as a member with our group. Just, as long as your child has got needs, you don't need to have a diagnosis or anything. We do ask just for you to complete a membership form, but it's just for our kind of records and just to make sure that, we know what your children's needs are, so we can kind of match activities and things up for them, and for when we have sort of food things that we do a lot of for allergies and things like that. So if anybody isn't a member of the Sensory Place and wants to join, you can just send us an email, and that's the sensoryplace19@outlook.com. So coming up in May half term, we've got quite a few different events on actually just for that week. We've got some forest schools, some paddleboarding and kayaking. They're based in Seaham and in Durham City Centre in the river. And we basically, what we do is we facilitate the activities. So we organise registered, well-established groups who are brilliant with working with our children to kind of lead the events, and we just make sure that that they're done in small sensory friendly groups, and that everybody's aware of the children's abilities and what they can do. We've got a science day as well, which is an outdoor event where the kids will be able to take part in a few experiments, and Neil, who runs the session, he'll be doing some sort of bigger demonstrations. A lot of the children are already familiar with Neil. He did a lot of virtual things for us during the pandemic as well, so that was great, because we had to obviously adapt our sessions to keep in touch with the families during all the lockdowns as well. So another thing that we've been doing is working with a company called Social Chef, and they provide lots of sort of home cookery packs. So we do actually have quite a few of those going out. I believe we've got 60 packs going out to make cookies at home. And as an extra treat for everybody who's doing that, we've also got some sand art kits so the kids can do a little bit of art and craft as well. And then looking forward, in the future, we've hopefully got some big plans for the summer holidays. Last year we ran a 6 weeks of summer program, so every week we had different packs and events. So obviously, fingers crossed, we won't go back into any kind of lockdown, but we are keeping an eye on that. And we have experience now, so if we can't deliver sessions sort of face to face, we will be going out again with all the home activity packs and back online doing virtual interactive events for the children, just to keep all of the community together and making sure families stay supported. With regards to that as well, we do have a closed Facebook page as well, which is our parent support group. So if anybody wants to chat in there, kind of give us any suggestions, what could help them or their family. Like I say, we are parent volunteers who run the group. None of us are trained individuals, but we are, we're experienced just with our own children and life experiences in that sense. What else was I going to say? Sorry, I'm not used to doing this. We also are looking to have an under fives playgroup, which will be run by Louise, one of our trustees, and that will take place in Seaham Youth Centre. We've been awarded some funding through Comic Relief, I believe, for that one. So we've got some fantastic equipment. We're hoping to have a lot of sort of sensory trays and a lot of the big sort of mobility equipment as well. So the kids can develop all their sort of fine motor skills and gross motor skills, as well as all the tactile things with the sensory trays and the big tough trays that we'll have, and lots of sort of sand and water play. So that'll be fun. And once we've got that up and running, we also kind of would like to do that sort of thing for our older children too, because sensory needs don't stop for the under fives. Obviously our group cater up to 18 at the moment, and if we've got enough members and enough interest, we will be running those sort of sessions for children of all ages. Maybe do it in smaller groups, but we've got lots of ideas anyways, and lots of things that we want to help with. I just noticed there's a question there. I don't know if that's for me or not. Nope. Right. What else was I going to say? Yeah.
I think it is for you. It says, are there any events and things going on for toddlers which I know you've just mentioned.
Yeah.
But I know we do have. Sarah, do you want to share the details on the screen? We do have your details. There we go.
That's great. Yeah. Thank
you. Have
you.
your details up, so anybody who's wanting to obviously get your details, there we go.
Yeah, most of our events, to be fair, you know, depending on the location, we do have you know, sort of 2 and 3 year olds that do attend. And it just depends on what's taking place. So, for example, Willoughby's Rocks, which is like an eco-friendly, lovely little garden area, that's perfect for like the younger ones. But we also have a separate sort of older event where the children can do more sort of woodwork and cooking and arts and crafts. But we always advertise them with like a suggested age, but everybody can you know, can ask, and siblings are welcome as well. So even if you've got an older child or a younger child, we'll try and match an activity up where they can come together. So that's not a problem.
I've just got we've just got Heidi from Sendars has just got a hand up.
Yeah.
Would you like to ask a question, Heidi?
Sorry, I was just figuring out how to get myself off mute. I was just going to say a massive thank you to the Sensory Place, really. As a parent, my daughter accessed Wild Track Wilderness. This is maybe the 2nd or 3rd time we have been on that. And
yeah.
Dave and Barry, who run the sessions through for the Sensory Place, are just absolutely amazing. And we were an amazing group of children last time we went, and my little boy made a new friend, and he met this little boy who had additional needs, and they talked all the way through, and his mum kind of said, you know, he doesn't normally kind of go off and do stuff with the children, but them two disappeared off with Barry to go and look for deer. It was such an amazing activity, and you know, I kind of thank the Sensory Place enough for the support that they give our family.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely. I know, you know, all the people who we kind of organise the events with, you know, we do meet beforehand and make sure that they understand our children. And, you know, as my little girl always says, they need to be sensory friendly. Otherwise, like, I guess she's good at vetting them and working them out. But yeah, you know, they've got to be able to kind of adapt to our children. So, and it is lovely because the more sessions that we've been putting on, we seem to get the same kind of families booking on together, and the kids are making friends, which is, it's lovely. And especially with the Wild Track Wilderness ones, we've got extra sessions on in May because it was like a concert. It sold out in like 2 minutes or something last time we advertised it. So we'll definitely be continuing with things like that. And I know Dave and Barry are wanting to do some kind of climbing sessions and beach stuff and things as well. So, you know, if there's a need and the kids want it, that's what we're here for. We just want to know what families need, because we totally appreciate that as the world opens up, it's not suitable for everybody. We can't just take our kids into a packed soft play or to a big event. It doesn't work like that. It's too much sensory overload. So anything we can kind of book and make, you know, more suitable and on a smaller scale, that's what we aim to do.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jamie.
No
I think we've just got another one to find out about what events are happening. Like we've just shared on the screen, they do have a Facebook page if you like to go on and look for the Sensory Place. There's 2 pages, isn't there? There's like the open one and the closed one. Yeah, if you just go on to the Sensory Place on Facebook, and then all of the events are on there.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you again, Amy.
No problem.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, bye.
Right. Next we have I do believe we have Gillian. Right, I'm going to turn my camera off. The pair of you are on screen. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, and then it's all yours.
Thank you very much. So hi everybody. For those that don't know me, I'm Gillian Leckenby and I'm the locality manager for CAMS in Durham and Darlington, and I'm the project lead for TUVE for the neurodevelopmental pathway work. Jill, if you can do your introduction.
Hi everyone, hopefully I've sorted out my problems connecting and you can all hear and see me now. I'm Jill Rayburn, I'm a service manager in Durham and Darlington CAMS. I've recently come into post and I'll be picking up the day-to-day management and implementation of the new pathway that Gillian's going to talk about.
So we thought that for the time that we had today, it would be really helpful probably for yourselves just to give you a bit of an overview about where we've been, what we're doing, what the future state would look like. And then if anybody got any questions, we can't answer individual personal questions, but I'm more than happy if anybody wants to contact me outside of this. If they've got any particular questions about their family or young person, then we can pick that up outside of this conversation. So we're back in September 2019. We carried out an event which we call a service redesign event, specifically looking at the autism assessment processes and the ADHD assessment processes, because what we were hearing from families was that it was really difficult to navigate through our services, and that we were getting referrals in, that we were struggling to identify whether they were ASD or ADHD. So we were putting people through an assessment process and get to the end of that process and have to go then onto the next pathway. And you know, there's a long wait for those assessments, and it felt like families were then having to go back to the back of a queue to start all over again. And often elements of assessments are exactly the same, but because of the length of wait, we were having to redo some assessments because they were out of date and the young person had gone, had moved on from a particular stage in their life to the next stage. So we sat with some group of interested people, including some parents and carers, and looked at what was the evidence base across the whole of the country and what other services were doing. And we designed this very high level idea of having one pathway. So it didn't matter whether your young person needed an assessment for autism or an assessment for ADHD, or actually we didn't know what it was, but they just needed something, then they would go down one pathway. But from a diagnostic point of view, what was really different with this pathway was it wasn't about diagnosis, and it was very much focused on needs led. So part of this work was having, so thank you. So I go to this next slide, which just shows you what I've just described. So as you can see, what we had in the old way were the two separate pathways. What we've got in the new process is one pathway, regardless of what that what those presentations are and what those potential needs are for that young person. So it will flow through, there'll be no jumping from one to the next, and it will be a seamless process. The bit that's connected to this, which is more exciting, to be honest, than this, is that it's very much needs led. So we're trying to encourage people to think about a diagnosis isn't always the end of anybody's. You don't get a diagnosis and everything just fixes itself, but it's very much about understanding what the needs of that young person and that family are, and not just from the family's point of view, but from the wider locality, so the wider world that's around that young person. So alongside this project, there was a project lead from within the CCGs and the local authorities, and their work was to try and pull together, and Heidi's on this call, and Heidi came into post at a really opportune moment, try to pull together what exactly is it that we've got in County Durham that families and young people can be signposted and supported to get help for, and if we've got any gaps, then what are they, so that we can help develop those. So that's to be honest, that's the really exciting part of this pathway, because what we were hearing from families was that they didn't know where to go. They couldn't work out what was out there to help them, and that they felt stuck and they were frustrated, and the wait was too long, and we weren't able to provide any support because we were only there to provide the assessment work. So this new pathway should see a more streamlined process, and families will feel far more able to get the support they get thanks to people like Heidi and the Send IAS team. And I don't know, Jill, at that point, do you want to add anything else to that?
I think Heidi's already had a conversation with you today, or will be at some point in the day, so I guess she'll be able to describe that a lot better. But I guess from our point of view, it feels a lot more joined up now than it will be in the future. I guess we're keen to hear parents' views on that, and obviously young people's as well. But it feels like it will meet the needs of the families and the young people hopefully a lot better than it did before. We obviously need to review as we go along, but the feedback we've had so far has been positive, but we always like to collect more feedback and obviously hear people's views as we go along.
I think one of the things that I need to add, and I apologise now, what it doesn't do is at this moment in time is shorten the wait, and the wait is significant, and that's not just a County Durham issue, it's a national issue across the whole of the UK. So going forward, I think if we were having this conversation in a year, 2 years time, I think that might start to reduce that wait because we've got this streamlined process and we can get people through quicker. But during COVID, we were unable to carry out any assessments for about 6 to 8 months because an element of this assessment has got to be face to face, and we couldn't find a safe way to do it. Now that we've got that and we're back on track, but I hope you can appreciate that that's then left us with a 6 to 8 month extension onto what was already a wait. So I can only apologise, but please believe me when I say we are trying to do everything we can to reduce that as much as we possibly can, because I appreciate that doesn't help people as families and young people, but again, thinking about what other support they could have in the meantime. So I guess the issue now is, anybody got any questions for us about the pathway, anything at all that we can perhaps provide you with some information around?
I'm talking away muted here. Absolutely terrible. I'm not sure whether there's any questions just yet. But no doubt, like I've said before, this is getting recorded and it'll be viewed. Oh, we do.
And that's absolutely fine. If anybody thinks that they've got a question that they'd rather ask us on a personal level, then you've got my contact details. Please feel free to send me an email and we'll see what we can do to support you and help you with anything that you need.
Yeah, we do have a question there for you.
Oh, fabulous.
If we've received a letter saying that they are on SCAT, are they now on this new pathway?
No, so what we've been very, very clear about, this new pathway does not change where you are on the current list. So if you were already got a letter that says you are in that autism assessment waiting process or going for that assessment, then that won't change that. We're very clear that this new pathway will not move people further up, that they'll go to the end of the queue. So you should never lose your place in the waiting list that's there now.
Yeah, so it's basically sort of like the admin side and the things like that, that's going to be changing in the background, isn't it? It's not going to be, nobody's going to be moved around just because of this pathway starting.
No, absolutely not. It'll flow through, following on from what we already have.
Champion. Do we have any more? No, I think that's all for now. Like I said, we do have another one, sorry.
All right.
So if in the ASD pathway will they look at all the possible diagnosis?
So they already do that now. We carry out what we call a differential diagnosis, which is an element of the assessment. So that's already in place. And in the past, what would have happened is that if it got to the end of the assessment and there was a query whether it was ADHD, it would have had to go back to the other one, to the other pathway. What we're trying to do for those young people who are already on the ASD waiting list is not to do that. So if there's any possibility that there's an ADHD diagnosis as well as or instead of, what we call the formulations will identify that and we'll have the right people in. And it might mean they might have to do another bit of an assessment, but it won't mean them going back to the end of the queue.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And again, give us a shout if anybody needs anything. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I guess really just thank you to everyone. And if you want us to come on anything again or join you in any other meetings, just give us a shout.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you very much, girls.
Thanks.
Bye.
Rest of your day. Bye.
Bye. Next on my list, we have Cheryl.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you very much for letting me come on and give you a bit of an update on kind of everything to do with Durham Works and the progression team. So that's kind of my little slot this morning. So hopefully I'll be about 15 minutes. I think that's what I was last time. So it is like I say, so my name is Cheryl Temple and I'm the progression manager and I work within the education department. And I'm here just to give you, like I say, a little bit of an update on everything to do that is Durham Works at this moment in time and just some new developments and where we're at with our service. So hopefully it's informative. And what I've done is I've tried to look, if you were with us at the last conference, I've tried to kind of just look at that. So I'm not repeating myself, but I'm just giving you some updates on where we are with some of our new programs really. So hopefully, and like I say, if any questions at all, please just shout up and I'm going to give me slides later so you can have a little look and contact us at any point. Okay, so really just about the generic Durham Works programme, which has been with us here in County Durham for some years now. There is some good news where we think it's very good news is that we can extend the service through at least until December 2023. Because originally Durham Works was funded through the European Social Fund, which you'll know with Brexit and everything is coming to an end, but we have been able to secure some more funding to allow that to continue up until December 23. And then we're always looking to get some more statutory support and continue that through and beyond for our young people in County Durham. So for me, that's really good news. And that's our service to support anyone that's unemployed in County Durham, age 16 to 24. We have supported over 8,000 young people, and of those that have completed our programme, we've got an 80% progression rate. So that young people have gone into either education, employment or training at the end of our support, which we're really pleased with and hope we can continue that success really. We are currently focusing very much on the transition. It's that time of year for us in terms of young people that are leaving college, leaving school, supporting them into something in September. So a lot of our work is being done with colleges and schools at this moment in time to identify those young people. And equally, we've got some marketing campaigns out there that you may be able to see through Facebook. We've got some new provision coming on board over the summer, which includes specific provision for our SEMH young people as well. So please watch out for that. And if you want any more information on that, please let me know and I can provide that to yourselves. We have got our, which I think is a little bit underused, we've got our access to advisors constantly throughout the week from 9 till 5. We have our online service. So if you go on the Durham Works website, again, I've got a contact on here. You've got instant access to advice and support, a little bit like you would to EE or Currys or the big services that you've got now, where our advisors are sat on the other end and can provide you with an online conversation and a chat about what Durham Works does and whether the provision would be appropriate for you, and just a little bit of advice. So please utilise that as much as you can, or have a little look online and have a little try yourselves. Okay, that's Durham Works. In terms of the other services that we've got, I think I did update you a little bit last time about the programme for schools and what that looks like. So that's our new programme that we've been able to provide since 2020, which is the preventative offer of our work. So that's we're going into schools now, which is something we've wanted to do for quite some time, so we're really excited about. So that started in 2020, and that's working with young people in Key Stage 4, so years 10 and 11. Again, a little bit like us with Progression Team, it's all around that transition, and it's supporting with careers and choices and making sure that young people are prepared for when they leave school through into post-16 options. We're working across all schools, so we're working in mainstream as well as SEND schools, as well as alternative providers. And equally, we've got an offer there for young people that are classed as electively home educated, and if they've got access to educational health needs team support, so if their attendance is is a little bit poor and they need some support within the home. So that's where we are at this moment in time, and where we're providing the support. The young people with EHCPs and young people with SEND support needs can equally access this support, as well as any other young people that we would see as vulnerable in terms of needing some help over the summer. So it's quite an open service really for us in terms of that support. What we haven't been able to do, and what we really wanted to do this last year, was give our full range of offer in schools. And as you know, we've had which everybody knows, we've had COVID hit us, so that's really impacted on what we've been able to do this last year, unfortunately. The schools have been fantastic and we've worked really, really closely with them. So we've had to adapt what we've done over this last year, and I'll give you a few examples of kind of what the kind of work we have done. But we are looking forward now, and we are getting back out into the communities. We've got access to 1 point hubs where we can see young people now. We're doing loads of doorstep visits. We can even go into education providers. So we are just getting out and about there even a little bit more, or we're really, really pleased about that. So just to kind of say in terms of the referrals, so we are, like I said, working really closely with school staff to identify which young people would benefit from our support. That's mainly where our referrals tend to come from the schools themselves. We do liaise with all the other services as well. So we work really closely with the SEND casework team, with educational psychologists, 1 point colleagues and social workers, who equally identify any young people that may need support. And when we do identify who those are, we do contact parents and work closely with them in terms of being able to make sure that you know what's going on and how we're going to be working, particularly with those young people that we're going to offer that mentoring support for. So where we think that actually they would really benefit from that hand holding, potentially some travel training and things, which I'll share with you in a little bit. So we will work very closely with yourselves as parents on that. So some of the activities that we've actually, even though lockdown and we've had to change everything and we haven't been able to do, we were planning on doing all sorts of group work in schools and visits to colleges, visits to work barrels. And I was talking about the activities in some of the schools that we've been doing. I remember that, right? Okay, so I was just going to try and give you a couple of examples of some of the work that we can do and that we have done. And I think I'd like to share this with you. It's just about some what we can do is we can help with choices for young people. So, we can help with any of those young people that might have low aspirations and few ideas. An example is here about a young person who was refusing to attend school, and we did build that relationship up and spent a lot of time with, and we're currently supporting them to look at opportunities and visits to providers. So that's kind of that's an example there of a young person that we've been supporting. And mental health support as well, we can help with tease a young person at special school, poor attendance. Again, we've been supporting them, visiting them at home, helping with decision making, liaising with other professionals and exploring transport arrangements as well, because I know that can be a big thing for a lot of young people is the transport. So we can help and support with that as well. And equally, this is an example of where we have helped with transport. This is a young person currently enrolled at a mainstream school has applied to local college, but she's really anxious about travelling. So our work has arranged to meet with her at home and is doing a little bit of practice on her bus routes and things. And also equally liaises with the college to make sure that they've got that contact and a staff member to support them. So that's just some examples. I thought they were important. Again, I'll try and be quick for you, Amy, because of technical problems. Just a very quick update. Again, I mentioned Durham Enable at the last conference, if you were there. Our new supported employment service is actually here now, so we're really excited. And we have that funded up until December 23, which again, a little bit like Durham Works, we're hoping that we will be able to continue that on. So we're not aiming for it just to be a service that comes in and goes at 23. We are absolutely aiming to keep that within County Durham because we know it's really, really needed. So eligibility terms, it's 18 years onwards, right up into the ages of 60, whatever that might be. They need to be unemployed, have a learning disability, autism or long-term mental health issues. And it's a lot of practical support. And it is, the ultimate goal is to enter some kind of paid employment. Now that doesn't have to be full-time employment. It could be 1 day a week, it could be 2 days a week, it could be a few hours a week. But the long-term goal there is to really support people that are having those issues in terms of gaining employment. And it is that practical support. So it is being able to work with fewer people really, and offer them a lot of intensive support around job matching and where they might want to go. Equally around that kind of looking at the local LMI, the local information around where jobs are. And equally working with their employer. So what we find is it's really, really important to gain that relationship with the employer as much as it is with the participant and with all the family and support network. So that employer will get a lot of support from the job coach, and they'll be able to go in and work with them within that kind of working environment as well. So to make sure that they're settled and happy where they are. So that's just to give you a bit of an example of the type of work. I would go through this, but I know I haven't got time. It's just an example profile of a young man aged 25 with autism, and just some of the things that we go through around what their current support is, what the independence levels are like, what their previous, if they've got any qualifications, what training they might have had, but equally what they might want to do in their aspirations. So those are the kind of things that we would look at within Durham Enable. There's an example there as well around the kinds of support and the journey that somebody would go through with us under Durham Enable from start to kind of finish really. And again, I know I haven't got time to go through that with you this morning, but please have a look and I'll supply the slides. It's very much what I said. It's that relationship building, it's that job matching, it's working with the employer, and it's equally, it's making sure that we've got the support. Any reasonable adjustments are made, any extra funding is found for that job to be a success really. And there's ongoing support. Like I say, once you're in employment, we don't just end there. So just to give you the progress to date, we've got 10 job coaches now, which we're really pleased about. We've got a new management team that we've appointed. Not all of them are in yet, but we think over the next couple of months they will come on board with us, which is great. And just to say, just in terms of the ethos of the whole Durham Enable programme, we have had service users, we've had them in with us in the interview process. So they have been interviewing alongside us, the job coaches and the managers. You know, we've been grilling the managers. We've had a service user panel that's grilled the managers. So it's all about that kind of co-production, making sure that we've got them involved in the service design from the very, very beginning, including recruitment. So we're really proud of that. So we're working with 26 participants at this moment in time, and that's building. And we have got a project board in place where we've got partners, including Job Centre, Adult Social Care, Public Health. We've got Business Durham, because we need to be making sure we're linking them with employers. So that's all kind of just started. And like I say, we're on the very, very cusp of beginning this project. So if you want to find out any more information, you want to talk to me, I'm really keen to do that. And I will keep you updated as we go through to the successes, any successes that we get from that programme as well. As well, I couldn't not tell you about the adult learning provision we've got on offer from September, supported internships. Please get in touch if you want to find out anything else. And there's my contact details for the various programmes. So we've got our Durham Works contact details, the programme for schools I've mentioned, and our Durham Enable. So please just drop us a line if you want to know anything else. And I am so sorry about that technical issue. But I hope I've made up for it and kept the time a little bit for you there, Amy.
It was a quick whistle stop tour at the end there, Cheryl.
I know.
Yeah, yes, if anybody has any questions, don't forget to check out, we'll have your details on our website and Facebook page and things anyway. So
yes, of course, absolutely, anything, just give us a shout.
Thank you very much, Cheryl.
No problem.
See ya.
Thank you, bye.
Bye. We have Paul from the local authority, if I can.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for the opportunity to come along and speak to the second of the conferences, the May conferences. Really appreciate that. Just as a quick introduction, my name is Paul Shadforth. I'm the Strategic Manager for Send and Inclusion within the local authority. Manage a range of different services within the local authority, but also take the lead on some of the strategic developments across the local area for County Durham. What do I mean by that? So we work in strategic partnership with a whole range of different services and organisations, including health organisations, care organisations, our schools as well. And we try and make sure that everybody is working towards a similar, sorry, I'm just trying to get the angles right on this, it's all a bit odd. Don't look like that normally. Yeah, we do try to get everybody to work together to make sure that we're all collectively trying to achieve the best opportunities for our children and young people in the county. What I wanted to come and speak to you all about today is our SEND strategy. So all of those organisations work together to make sure that they can best meet the needs of children and young people within County Durham. And in order to do that effectively, what we need to make sure is that they're all working towards the same goals, the same aims and visions. And we've got a SEND strategy now that's just about to run its course, just about to finish. And what we want to do is we want to rewrite or reset that and make sure that everybody's working towards the same goals. As I say, all of those strategic partners. So how have we gone about that? So I'm just hoping that my screen share is working. I'm speaking into just a small tube at the moment. So if somebody could just yes.
Yeah, I can see it on screen, Paul. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, thank you. I'll click onto it. Yeah. So what do we want to do in terms of our strategy? We want to make sure that our strategy informs and supports everything that we do. And when I say we're talking about all of those partners, so not just the local authority, but all of the schools as well, all of the health services, all of the care services as well that surround our communities, and all our voluntary community work as well that goes on, and each other as well, make sure that we're all working and we're supported by that. We want to understand when we make progress. And the alternative to that is we want to understand where we're not making progress, we're not getting where we want to be, and try and understand why that's the case and what we can do to try and resolve that. And what the strategy should be, it should be clear, it should make sense for children and young people, it should make sense for yourselves, and parents and carers, schools and settings, the whole partnership as a whole, and individual practitioners out there. So it's quite it needs to be a document that covers all of those things. So we've been doing quite a bit of work over dealing with lockdown, obviously in the last year. Everybody's been challenged by that, both personally and professionally. But we've continued with our work. We've made sure that we've consulted, we've taken a lot of information from people over that period, but also we've said, well, okay, what do we know? What do we think is right and appropriate, and how we form that view. So we've looked at what we have in terms of current legislation, so what the law, what the government and the courts are telling us we have to do in terms of setting our strategy. We've looked at our county, and we are quite every county is unique, but Durham's uniqueness is ours, and that would be quite a large county, lots of different areas, lots of different small communities within the county, and some reasonably sized towns as well as the city of Durham as well. So we've got to look at that context, look at how many schools we have, how we balance all that out. We've been, and many of you will have already contributed to this, we've been involved in the high needs block consultation work, and actually that's how we use our funding for SEND across schools as well, and how we make sure that we're getting the best value for our monies through there. And we've been listening to all of the feedback from parents and carers and stakeholders through that consultation. But a similar high needs review and autism review that have also helped us to shape our strategic position. And we've also conducted a health needs assessment. And I think I spoke at the last conference or the conference before on the health needs assessment and just some of the key findings of that health needs assessment. We also, although it seems a long time ago for me, I'm sure it was for others as well, but we had Ofsted come and revisit the county. Quite strange really, they came and visited, they left, and before they got a chance to publish their letter, we were in lockdown, but actually it was a really positive experience. Positive outcome for the county, positive that all areas have made good progress, sufficient progress in the areas that we needed to make progress, and actually some really positive feedback. I recommend that you'd read that. And a range of other things. All of those things we've been looking to pull together and say, okay, well, what are they telling us? What are those things fundamentally saying for our strategic vision? And we've come up with this statement, and I'd like just to take a little bit of time to pause on this screen, because I'm going to ask you some questions next on this, and that's whether this statement's appropriate. So we want, for all of our children and young people with special educational needs, the same thing for all children and young people in County Durham. We want them to be safe, we want them to be part of the community, we want them to have the best start in life, we want them to have good physical and mental health, and gain education, skills and experiences to prepare them for adulthood. So all of those pieces of work that I've mentioned on the previous slide have been brought together and formed this statement. And what I wanted to speak to you as a parent carer group and body of parents and carers in this conference, I want to ask you whether that vision is clear, and whether you're in support of that vision as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about the aims as well after we finish that. Now, in order for us to do that, I wonder if you could reach for your mobile phones or for your web browser and just log into the Slido website. So that's www.sli.do. And if you put in the first code there, which is 329066, you should get a poll or a question, and this is building on the previous conference's question as well on Monday. So I just wonder if you would be able to suggest whether you find that vision clear, first of all. So I'm just going to wait and see if pause and see. Oh, we've got one respondee there. Let's see if we've got some more popping through. So I know it's working, that's good. I'll leave it open for a little while. It'll get a little bit quicker as we move through, because we've got a couple of questions to ask through Slido. I'll keep a reasonable pause. I'll just wait for another few moments. It's important that we get everybody's view, so I want people to have the chance to be able to do that, and I'm just making sure they get a chance to access the technology. So we'll give it a
just a quick question, Paul.
Sure.
Obviously, because this is recorded.
Oh, I've lost you there, Amy.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry. Just because this is getting recorded and people will be able to go on it later, will these still be live for people to go on and answer?
They're not at the moment, but I'm sure I could arrange that. Yes, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, I'm just curious whether or not, so if anybody's actually watching this back after the fact of today, then hopefully you could click on and take part in the slide, or if not, and there is any sort of like issues, any questions, anything like that, if you just pop them into the chat underneath the YouTube video or on our Facebook page and things like that, we'll I'm sure we'll get them back to Paul.
I've just checked. It gives me the opportunity to open it for 1 week.
Right, yes, that would be.
So it can run through until Friday of this week, and I'll see if I can extend it beyond that point.
Right. Champion. Just in case, obviously, if other people are watching this back afterwards, then they want to input, then they can do that afterwards.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thanks, Emma. Yeah, we'll do what we can to do that. If not, as I say, I'm more than happy to pick up those polls. It was just to try and facilitate this discussion. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to open the next question now. So thank you for all responses. You should now see. Oh, there you go. Now, has the other question come up? So has the next question come up? Where do you support the vision? Can you see that?
Not for me, Paul.
Hang on.
No, me neither.
No.
There. How about that?
Yeah, it's come up now. There was a question on there. Should be 2 questions. Yes, and here's the second one for you.
Yeah. So, do you support the vision? So, 1, is it clear? You've answered that. Thank you. Next is, are you in support of it? Okay, that's great. We've got really positive responses. Thank you very much for that. What I'm going to do is I'll continue and I'll move on. There's a couple more questions, which is about the aims, but I'll first just outline what the aims of the strategy are. So again, all of that strategic work is sort of said, well, if we're going to do that, if we're going to achieve that vision, what do we want for our children and young people? And we want to basically go through 5 different things. We want 5 things fundamentally to work for our children and young people. We want them to be present. We want them to be able to participate. We want them to achieve. We want them to belong and be independent. When we say present, what we mean is we want for all children and young people to attend their local school wherever possible. And we want to closely work to participate. We want to closely work with children, young peoples and families together to make sure that we develop their resilience as a whole so that they feel confident, that their needs are understood and that they're being met. In order to help our young people achieve, we want to identify needs in a timely way, make sure that we understand the young people as quickly as we can, and we want to be able to put support in at the right time so that they get off to a flying start and continue well with their learning and their lives. We want them to belong. So we want for all education settings, all settings, to have a workforce that's confident in being able to identify and meet needs as well. And that therefore makes young people have a sense of belonging and be able to be there and be themselves in that setting as well. And we want to develop independence as well for our young people. So we want to make sure that we've got a good offer that's linked up by all different agencies, and that it's aligned to the needs of those children and young people. Not too much, not too little, just right. So proportionately along there. So again, similar questions. If you could just please move on to a different coded Slido. So if you go back onto the Slido homepage and then put the event question in 033617, you should at that point have another question there, which is, are the aims, what I've just gone through, clear for parents and carers? I'll just give you a moment to get onto these questions. I'm starting to get some responses, so I know it's open, that's great. I think we got to about 18 or 20 responses last time round, so I'll just hang on a bit because we're on 16 at the moment.
I tell you what I have noticed, Paul. I did it on my phone on Monday, and I've just gone back in through my phone, and it's come up with me answer that I answered on Monday. So obviously it does register and track.
Yeah, that's great. That stops us getting duplicate answers, I suppose. So
yeah.
if one person's really in support, then just giving us 100 yeses, and it stops them doing that. Okay, thank you. So that's great. Again, it's really good that it's clear. First and foremost, we need a strategy to be able to be followed. Second multiple choice question is similar to the first one, is do you support the strategy? Or to support the aims, sorry, that was set out. And you've got 3 choices on this one. You've got a yes, a no, and some. That's great. I think there's a couple, the majority of people are in support of the aims in the conference. We haven't got everybody's responses in yet, and we've got a couple of people who are suggesting some. We've got a chance to, in the next question, is to say, are there things that you feel should be addressed in the aims as well? And that's a bit of a word cloud, but equally, if people want to come back and let me know what they mean by some, let me know, or we can have a quick conversation at the end of this as well, just to understand what you mean by some, which ones are not you're not in support of, I suppose, and why that would be the case. That'd be helpful, but don't worry about it. Otherwise, we can certainly take it as feedback from MCT at a later date. Okay, thanks. I'm going to move on. We haven't got everybody's responses on there, but we've got a few, and that's the next one, which I think is probably the most telling one for us, which is the word cloud. So are there things that you would like to see addressed in the aims as part of within those aims? And you should see some words that came from the first conference popping up, or you should be able to see that word cloud. But if you could contribute to that, that's fantastic. I'm just going to ask, do you get to see the cloud as it's forming, just so I can?
Sorry, Paul, I'm talking away to myself and I'm on mute. Yes, you can. Yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up for me anyway. When I type a word in, all the other words are coming up and changing sizes and things.
That's great. So the size changes are where there's a repeat or the group word sometimes. So mental health is really, really strong. Reasonable adjustments, independence, local support and transitions are all things that have been put in a few times that really beefs them up as a set of responses.
I think what makes it great as well is that you can put in more than one response. So if there's multiple things that...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And what we'll be able to do with this, and what we'll be doing with this, is when we start to look at the actions that we want to take underneath those aims, we'll be making sure that we've really got to focus on mental health. We've really got to focus on independence and transition and support. Are others managing to do this? I'm seeing a few responses, but not tons. I'm certainly seeing the word. Oh, there's a few more coming in now. I know it takes a bit of a while to think and to put them in as well sometimes. So we'll just keep it open for a little while. All the things that we learned to do during lockdown. I've never used Slido before, or 18 months ago, and now we use it all of the time.
I must admit, I am quite liking the word outline.
Yeah, they are good, aren't they? The word clouds there, you know.
Yeah.
Nice way to get feedback. Okay, I can leave that open and I can keep on going through the slides. So if thoughts keep popping into people's heads, then just keep on going. I don't think I need to close that off. So in terms of developing that strategy and what we're doing, I just thought I'd cover what we've done so far. So my slide should have moved on for you now, but we've been sharing this vision and sets of aims with Sense Strategic Partnerships, all of those key partners right at the most senior levels. So from schools and colleges to early year settings, through to all of our health providers, and to our care providers as well. So we've been sharing those vision and aims and been receiving really positive feedback and supportive feedback from them, which is good and great to see that that chimes with our parents and carers views as well that we're seeing. And we've got some more work to do with we've also been speaking, with our early health inclusion and vulnerable children services, our send and inclusion staff teams, head teachers from schools as well, and the chairs of head teachers of special schools, but also the head teachers who chair the communities of learning. So communities of learning there's about 14 of them across the county. They're led by a head teacher within a community, and all the other head teachers work with that head teacher. So we've been sharing this vision and aims with them to make sure that they can understand that and they can work with us and work on those vision and aims. What are we going to do next with this piece of work? So we've already done the first one, which is we've got to go through the full strategy with the steering group. We've done that. Then we're going through stakeholder engagement, which is where we're at now, which is working with you and working with others as well, just to make sure that we get their views and that strategy is really as tight as we can get it. And then we'll be going to the strategic leadership group and the full strategy before we get through governance as well. And what we mean by governance is the full council sign off. So from the chief executive through to the leader of the council as well, to make sure that we all buy into that. And equally that the chief executives of the health trust as well get it and sign it off as well and commit to that. We've got a few more stakeholder pieces of work to do. So I'm here today with the MCT group, and we'll be speaking with our children and young people in Sendayas as well. In the extreme group. We'll be going through the early years settings, DAF, which is the Durham Association of Primary Heads, and DASH, the Durham Association of Secondary Heads. We'll be going to behaviour panels as well, which again is just more different groups of school leaders as well. We'll be speaking to people in social care, early help, and all across the health estate. So it's one thing going across to the leaders, but actually want to speak to all of those individual teams, all those therapists and providers. And we want to speak to all of our send and send associated services as well. So that's what we'll be doing to make sure that we get the best strategy possible. What we'll also be doing is we'll be asking them, what are they going to do in order to achieve those aims? So slightly different to the questions that we're asking you. We'll be challenging a little bit more that way around. So we'll be saying, okay, well, if we're all committing to them, what's going to be different? What are you going to do tomorrow that's different today to make us get further towards where we want to be as a county? Okay, so that's me in terms of slides. I think I can pop back onto screen, he says, hopefully at some point. Oh, you might have to help us here, Amy.
I can't really kick you off.
Yeah. I don't know how to get my presentation off. What's going on here?
I was going to say, I was just about to say, it's not on the top of my screen, so it must be coming off just slowly.
Just managed to do that. Yeah, just managed to do it. Okay, so that's it for me. More than happy if there's any questions. More than happy to take any comments. I don't know if you want to leave it open for a little moment. I'm not sure how we're doing for time,
Amy. We're doing all right, to be honest. I'm not even going to say it again because it fell apart last time. But yeah, we've got a question that's popped up.
So there's one in the chat there from Nicole. So the aims are great. Yeah. And what Nicole's sharing is from personal experience, the reality is very different. How can families be supported better? Nicole, what I would say is, unfortunately, we see that is the case for some of our families, that actually, for some of our families, it works perfectly well and everything goes right for them. For others, it doesn't. And what we want is a much more consistent approach, and that's a strategic approach. So we need that strategy to really commit to. So yeah, we recognise that there are some differences in terms of how people are engaging and coming around and making sure that that support clicks into place. So there's always work to do. And that's what I would say in response to that question is you do need that strategic vision and aims and commitment to do that. And then in time, what we'll do is we'll achieve it for more families. And hopefully, Nicole, that you and others like yourself experience things differently.
Yeah, I would like to just put across as well that obviously this is the SEND strategy is in place for the whole of County Durham. Other local authorities will have their own sort of like strategies and things like that. So I'm sure there'll be feedbacks and things in different areas.
Yeah, there's a good comment there. It's just popped up around, is this strategy or are these aims going to improve communication between schools and parents? Absolutely, that's fundamental for me. So when we talk about making sure that we're working in co-production, that's fundamental to that. So parents and schools absolutely have to be in close dialogue, need to work together. Everything that we're going to do, everything that we do, most of the things that we do now, we can certainly improve on some of them, do try and promote that, but we'll be doing more to get that through. So things like where there's SEND support plans in place or top-up funding, or whether a parent thinks the child's needs not being met, we're going to be taking a much more proactive role as a local authority in those discussions as well now. And we've been looking to get some additional resource to be able to do that, some more people to be able to do that, and actually just have those strengths-based discussions so that we can try and sort things out before we get to the really heated up moments, I suppose, where you're looking at statutory requests, you're looking at change of placements and other sorts of things, when actually we could probably do something a bit earlier if we're careful. And my experience is in many instances, if not all instances, that comes down to good, improved communication. So that's what we'll be trying to do, is make sure that we can promote that communication.
We've got another one, another comment there just after.
I'm sorry, I've just lost the screen there. So
the next part was, it feels like hard work at times, and we have to ask a lot of different agencies to help, and none of them seem to talk. The system is very complicated for a lay person, which a lot of areas, I know from personal experience, because Durham County Council is a large, widened area, it can be like a minefield to try and get to speak to somebody in one part of the county compared to the other.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've done just in response to that, so we've put a proposal in for around SEND casework that actually we can do a little bit more. We feel that we're in a much better position than many to be able to help and support families through that. And we want to do that pre-statutory assessment, and we want to be able to engage a little bit more and help support our families through these things, and do what we would call casework rather than just turn out assessments. So we are recruiting now to another 14 members of staff within the service to help. That's a really significant growth for us. So we're going to have, we currently have about 21, 22 caseworkers. So adding another 14 is going to give us a lot more resource to be able to do that and to be able to help our families through some of these tricky situations, to be able to link some of those services around. And just, it is complicated. It's a complicated, but basically our young people do have complicated needs, and as a result of that, there's lots of different pieces to fit together. So yeah, I really share that. You do need that strategy though, to make sure that everybody can turn back and say, what are we trying to achieve here, and then just reference that strategy document. And if somebody's pulling offline, you can remind them, actually, we've signed up to this, so what are we doing?
Just on that note, Paul, there is another one. How do we get schools to follow this and take our concerns seriously while waiting for official diagnosis? Yeah,
okay. Well, there's a couple of different things. It's quite tricky. The SEND code of practice and the law suggests that they have to do that, okay? So it really is, but then it's about, that's okay, having to do it, but who's holding who to account? How do we make sure that works? Now, the local authority can't hold schools to account in that regard. We can certainly point out where we think they could do better, and we can certainly support them where we think they need some support. But fundamentally, governing bodies come in there, parents come in there as well. So we want to do a little bit more about supporting the governing bodies to adopt this strategy. And in adopting this strategy is make sure that we give them the right information to make sure that their schools performing on this strategy and doing as well as they can on this strategy. So we're really keen to do that. So what, from my point of view as a strategic manager, what I'm looking at is, where's the accountability for these things? Who has the power in terms of where there's a problem to make that change and to put some energy and some resource into that change? And that's what we'll be doing with our schools as well going forward. So yeah, it is tricky, but we will be working with it. In terms of who's going to do it, then as I say, really it needs to be school leadership and it needs to be the governing bodies. And I know that they are doing that in the majority of instances across the county, but in some instances, you know, we really do want them to do a bit more. Your first port of call with the school will always be your SENCO when it comes to those SEN needs as well. So just making sure you go through that route.
Yeah, there is another one there that says it's very difficult when children don't present issues at school, have no diagnosis, no EHCP, and the school are slow to respond or even dismiss concerns.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky because when we're looking at SEND, it's about their educational need, and what we're in an educational setting, what people are seeing is that actually they don't have a need, but obviously in a home setting they do, and there's that wider learning side of things. So yeah, we do need to look at how we support and we work around that. So our early help services should be in there and should be able to support, and schools should be able to engage with them. We'll be taking some work forward with our schools and with our early help services through this thing called the place-based approach, which is, you know, we're trying to bring lots of services around a community or a geographical area, and then schools can come and have those supports and discussions in there. Those caseworkers that I mentioned before will also be able to come and try and help around that. It shouldn't really require an educational healthcare plan, but it's a family who needs support and needs some help and some guidance. And that's what we need to make sure happens. You know, an educational healthcare plan, you know, it's being reached for in that scenario is perhaps a bit too much in some instances, because
Paul is there's another comment there saying that even they won't even put a support plan in place despite difficulties accessing the curriculum. I think it's worth, would it be worth escalating to governors and things like that of the school?
I mean, I'm more than happy to, rather than get into like an individual discussion, I'm more than happy to speak to that parent and have a conversation or email exchange with them. Send IASA there, I know they're on this conference as well, to give independent support and advice around that. When it's coming from me, although I'll always be as fair and even-handed as I think I can be, I am there from the local authority as well. So it will be there, but that independent advice will come from Send IAS. So again, more than happy to take that forward, more than happy to speak about that individual experience and to link you up as well with where that support can happen. But we do hear that quite a bit. We're certainly hearing that more with anxiety post-COVID as well. And I've seen mental health popping up really clearly on there. You know, that is tricky for a lot of our young people with needs. They've had a very, you know, unique experience over the last year, and it's hard for them to recover from that a lot of the time.
We do have a few more questions, but unfortunately we need to go on to the next segment. These questions will be looked at. Paul, if you would like to just type any response on it for me, you should still be able to. I
will do. So I'll stay quiet. I'll answer the next two, and then I'll have to duck out because I've got a session to go to. But more than happy to take any conference questions and give some feedback via MCT as well.
Yeah, and just for anybody who's requesting about information around school, not putting things in place and things like that, like Paul has mentioned about Send IAS, there will be Heidi will be introducing herself later on this afternoon from Send IAS, and also if you check out our Facebook page and website and things, there'll be Send IAS details and things like that on there for anybody in County Durham who need Durham Send IAS. So if you just pop onto there, and then the details should be on there. Thank you very much, Paul. I'll leave you to that, and I'll pop the next section on. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, everybody.
If you give me 1 second, I'll just put the next section that we've got on is from roller coaster. Unfortunately, we haven't got them on. Can everybody say that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Right. So yeah, like I said, Lisa and Louise from Roller Coaster couldn't make today, so we recorded theirs from Monday. I'll just play this for you.
Everybody, I'm Lisa Dobson.
And I'm Louise Brown.
And we are both parent peer supporters with Roller Coaster. So if you don't know, if you haven't heard of Roller Coaster Parent Support was set up about 6 years ago by Wendy Hinnett when our daughter was suffering with mental health difficulties. And what she found was there wasn't the parent support available. So she set Roller Coaster Parent Support Group up. And what was really important, and is still a huge ethos in the kind of roller coaster work, is that it's parent-led, but it's professionally supported. So where we're at the moment, Louise and I are both employed by Roller Coaster as parent peer supporters. And the offer from Roller Coaster, there's 2 support groups a month, there's advisory work, there's digital support, and there's training. So we're going to go through some of those to give you a little bit more of a flavour of what's available with Roller Coaster.
So Roller Coaster, we do our support groups. Normally we do them face to face. Currently with restrictions, we're still not moving forward with them yet, but we're hoping to have more information after the 21st of June. It's all around, booking systems and also room restrictions and keeping that, space as well. But we're all looking forward to meeting up face to face and have our special chocolate and lots of cuppers together soon. We also have our digital support. When COVID struck, we moved online with Zoom and Facebook Live. And here is some feedback from various people, always uplifting. These sessions are really great and supportive. And as you can see, the support didn't stop when COVID hit. We've just gone virtual. We also have our telephone lines and our email bulletin as well. My job at Roller Coaster is one-to-one peer support, and as you can see, it's been quite a busy year so far. But what we support in is various areas: self-harm, anger, education. Whatever that parent needs support with, I can be there as a listening ear and offer a supportive word. So a week in the life of a parent peer supporter. Well, no week is ever the same, but I do various telephone, messenger and Facebook one-to-one sessions. I've also been able to do some walk and talk sessions, meeting face to face, and also help parents to navigate the system, because let's face it, it's a bit of a maze out there. I offer moral support, a listening ear, which is always so important, attend meetings in a supportive role, so lots of tabs and EHCP reviews. And the most important thing is to help that parent find hope again, because it is there.
So these are some of the things that parents who've accessed Roller Coaster, whether that be the training or the support groups or the online groups, have come back and said that, it's lovely that somebody is there and that nothing is the trouble. So there's always a listening ear.
And so easy to approach and non-judgmental. Roller Coaster is not a place to be judged. It's, a place to be safe and to get that support. Something we've done which I've really enjoyed, probably a little too much as an adult, is the Emoji Adventures. It's been a 4-week course. Our last one is this Wednesday, and it's where parents and their young people and children can come along together, and it's been absolutely brilliant. Live Well North East have made this so much fun, and we've been looking at those big feelings of anxiety, worries, anger, and make those children feel happier and more relaxed. And at the end of the session, we do a relaxed moment, and it certainly gets me relaxed and ready for bed. It's been absolutely brilliant. It's been such a fun thing to be part of. We also do our monthly virtual mental health drop-ins. We are continuing with those, and you can book a one-to-one session with a CAMHS professional. So if you've got any problems or any issues you want to talk through, we can put you into a breakout room and you can have that one-to-one time. It's really important, and we've had some really good feedback. And as you can see, their parents feel really thankful for the session and relieved they could talk to and be listened to. So that's really important. And we cover a range of topics and subjects there. And it's just nice even to pop in, just have a chat and a couple with me and Wendy even.
Now, when you find yourself in the position where you're trying to support your child and your family with emotional and mental health difficulties, it doesn't come with a job description. We don't have a list of skills to help us navigate that. So one of the things that is really important is about being able to access the training to help you understand where your child's at and what they're going through. And that's something that Rollercoaster offers, and more recently has teamed up with Making Changes Together and Durham County Carer Support and CAMS to offer regular training programs, so that there's a really good offer to families in County Durham who might be looking for that extra information to upskill themselves. As a parent, I've accessed some of these, and they really have helped us on our journey. So there is, and these are available on our website, on our Facebook page, and also through, I've seen them on the Making Changes Together. So all that information is there, and you can register to attend some of the courses, and it's all done online, and they really are excellent quality training programs. And then something else which is important, and when you're ready, and it's not for everybody, but lots of parents find themselves in the position where they've accessed support, or they've fought a little bit harder to get that support, and they want to be part of helping things change for the future for other families and other young people. And through Rollercoaster, there is that opportunity to get involved and to participate in how services change and adapt and support families and children and young people. And that's really empowering if that's something that you want to get involved in, to be listened and to have your experiences heard, and then to help, whether that's about recruitment or whether that's about the how systems are structured. It's real co-production and co-creation, working together with services. And we've been involved in lots of different things with Rollercoaster, both locally and nationally. And these are just some examples of some of the local involvement opportunities. United Voice is a big group of parents, children and young people who have all experienced emotional or mental health difficulties. And we sit as a group to help shape services, so that we meet, I believe it's bi-monthly, but that's available for people to get involved in if they would like. And then through that, other opportunities of involvement in shaping services and subgroups have come up. And these are some of the examples of things that are ongoing at the moment. And then also nationally, there's lots of work happening around that service development and how we get it better for children, young people and families to support them with their mental health. And Rollercoaster is involved in those with parents. And this is an example of some of the wider training that Rollercoaster has delivered. So this was to the RAF, and it was about them looking at what can they do to support families, to support their children, so that the stresses and strains of going to work are supported rather than feeling like it's an added pressure.
And Emily's Gifts. Emily's Gifts came about last year when one of our families lost their precious daughter. And out of that great sadness and heartbreak came Emily's Gifts. We had an event last year where children and their families could come along and fill a box, a distraction box, a self-soothe box, with things that could help them when they were in times of distress or crisis. Because of further funding, we now have further events happening this year, but I've also been supplying boxes on a needs-led basis. So those families that are struggling before we have our event in July, I've then been delivering those boxes so nobody has to struggle. So that's a wonderful event that's coming up, and I'm really looking forward to that, and it's a privilege to be involved in.
I have to apologise, everybody. So something has happened and I've lost the screen for the PowerPoint. So I'm really sorry. I'm going to try and get it back up. I'm not sure what happened.
Technical issues, eh? We can't control the tech.
I told you. There's some
you did.
Today.
The gremlins are out.
Virtual MCT conference, so let's just bombard everybody with glitches.
Yeah. Apologies, I'm just bringing it back up. I'll be 2 moments, sorry.
But yeah, I'll just tell you a bit more about Emily's gift. It's we're going to have the event this year, and it's going to be at the cricket ground again in Chesley Street. And there'll be more information arriving soon for you to be able to get yourself booked on. It's going to be a booking system for safety, and also because the children and young people like that it wasn't too busy last year. It was a really good, positive event.
There we go. Thank you, Louise. Sorry, everybody. Right, we're back. Hopefully we've got a few more slides, so hopefully we'll get to the end and share. So this is Out of the Box is a really exciting project. It is a box at Chesley Street Cricket Club, and Roller Coaster have got the box. We've started to decorate the box. There's a subgroup through United Voice that have formed to talk about and agree what the box looked like, what the colours were like, what would feel good for parents and children and young people when they were accessing that for support and for support groups. So that is happening now. It's still in the development stages. The furniture and things have been purchased recently. We've just finished painting one wall. The plasters are in this week. But it's something we're really excited about because it's true co-production. It's been done from the very beginning with professionals, parents, children and young people, and it is a space to be used to support families with the struggles and the challenges that they face when they're supporting their children with emotional and mental health difficulties. So really exciting. And then what we wanted to do is give you a bit of a flavour about what's happening and what you can access, because there's something for everybody, hopefully. So if you're in a position where you feel you need support, then there are currently still digital, there are the digital support groups. If you feel you're in a position where actually I want to get more involved and I want to help shape services, then there's the United Voice project and other subgroups, again, that you can get involved in. And the mental health drop-in that Louise mentioned earlier, if you just feel actually I need a couple with somebody who gets what I'm going through and I just want to sit and have that time out for me as well, because it's important to look after us. So that's a flavour for the next month of the events that are happening with Roller Coaster. And these, I think, can be shared as well so that people can have this information. So our contact details are on this next slide there, which I'll move over. So thank you for listening to us today and putting up with a slight technical glitch.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, everyone.
Thanks, Sarah. just while everybody's waiting, just to let everybody know, this is the Cheesy Waffles project. We just having a bit technical issues on Monday with playing a video with sound, but hopefully we'll get it on today, she says. But sorry, I was just trying to see if I could sort the sound out for you.
Could you hear it? Sorry.
It was rather tinny, like it was playing through something else and not the slideshow, to be honest. You can't quite hear it.
Well, it's only music. It doesn't make any difference to the information that's on. I'll just stop it, I think.
Ladies, if you try muting yourself, just see if that sorts it out. Stop it
Hello.
Hi there.
So that's the end. We did have a couple of other videos, but they're not sharing very well this time. But we've got lots of videos on our website if anybody wants to take a look at the different things that we've been doing with the Making Music project. So they're all on there if anybody wants to take a look.
Thank you very much. Well, hopefully we'll be able to put in the links and that underneath the YouTube video and on Facebook and things, and then people can be directed to them to go and have a look themselves.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Right, good afternoon. My name's Jill Todd. I'm an assistant locality manager. I don't know why I'm sat with my mask on, I'm on my own. I'm an assistant locality manager with adult mental health and work for Tuve. And I'm here really to talk about the transition from CAM services into adult mental health. It's a really quick presentation. I'm not going to keep people long and bore you with PowerPoint, but I'll just ask the girls who are hosting this to move on to the next slide because my technology skills aren't great. So next slide. Becoming an adult can be really exciting. You know, they can feel really grown up at 18, but it can also be scary. Lots of things you can do when you hit that 18 mark. You can stand for election as an MP, drink alcohol, get a tattoo. Not something we would recommend really. Become a blood donor. Next. But if you need to continue and require care and treatment for your mental health issues that you may have received treatment for within a CAM service, we want to try and make that transition into adult services as smooth as possible. It can be a bit of a shock coming into adult services. So what we would say to you is early intervention's better. We can engage with young people. We usually say up to about 6 months before they turn 18, but we have done that for longer periods. I think particularly if those issues are really quite complex, and we want to try and make that transition as smooth as possible. And during that sort of time where you've got almost a foot in both camps, we can undertake joint visits with your care team. We'll talk with your care team, and underpinning all of that is the fact that we want you to recover. We want you to go on and lead, you know, a good life, a meaningful life. Next. So what can you expect from adult mental health services? You can expect us to be honest and transparent. You can expect confidentiality, so whatever you tell us, we can't share with other people unless we have your permission to do that. You can expect a specialised assessment, so it might be that you come into adult services and we signpost to a specialist team. And what we want to do, and what you can expect and is absolutely all right, is that collaborative working. Next. So how does the system work? We've got the community mental health team, and there may be equivalents in CAMS. I can't really speak for that because it's not my area of expertise. But once you've been referred to adult mental health services, you're allocated to a CMHT. And working within that team will be a variety of professionals with different professional backgrounds, so psychologists, doctors, support workers, occupational therapists. They often meet up to review people's treatment, care and progress. And as your referral comes from CAMS into adult services, the team manager will usually allocate you a care coordinator. And this is usually a nurse or a social worker to work really closely with you and your family and help manage your care. Next. So you'll be allocated a care coordinator. You can expect regular appointments. You can expect medication reviews if appropriate, access to therapies, support and signposting. Next. So what's the role of the care coordinator? Well, the care coordinator is there to work collaboratively with you to plan your care. So to sit down, develop a relationship with you and help you to develop your care plan. And that's it sounds really simple to say that, but it's a really important piece of work, and development of that therapeutic relationship is key to that. So it's really important that we listen to what our service users tell us, because you may identify something as a problem and we may see a different problem, and somewhere we've got to try and meet in the middle and explain our rationale, each of us. So signpost when appropriate, deliver interventions, and assess and manage risk. Really, really important part of what we do is that assessment and management of risk. Risk can change very quickly, so I think you have to be very, you know, I talked in the earlier slide about being honest and transparent. We have to be honest and transparent with the care that we provide, but equally service users have to try and be honest and transparent so that we can assess and manage the risk and keep you safe. And to do that, we need to be able to communicate really, really effectively with young people. So the sort of care coordinator will coordinate services around the patient and may provide some of those services, but may just have an oversight of what's going on. Next. Families, and I think this is a really anxiety-provoking time for families. When people are working in children's services, families are very much included in what's going on, in decision making, in supporting that young person. And I would always say to people, please let us bring your families in and let us talk to them and tell them what's going on so that they can support you. But you do have that right as an adult to expect confidentiality. So whatever's told to us, it may be that we can't disclose that to a family member. And I get the fact that families get really frustrated when they sometimes come into services and we say, actually, we can't share that information with you. So you as the service user, as that patient, can choose who we share the information with. But we want to work with your family. You'll have a better outcome in most cases if you've got that additional family support. But again, as goes with being an adult, you get more choice. So you have some choices, and it's your right to say, no, I don't want my family in, or yes, I do. Next. So what else can we do? Well, by working with you, working really closely with you and in collaboration, we can promote independence, aid recovery, and absolutely offer hope so that people can leave our services if that's appropriate and go on and lead meaningful lives and always have that hope that things can improve. That's the end of the presentation. I'm open to any questions that anyone wants to ask me.
Sorry about that. He's just talking to himself again. He's all fun and games. We haven't got any as of yet, but if I just leave it a couple of minutes, we might
Yeah,
get...
that's no problem.
I think we ended up getting a few questions for you on Monday, didn't we, when you were on?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the questions were related to how long does it take to get allocated into mental health services, into adult services. So people are understandably concerned about timescales and things.
Yeah. Did anybody get in touch with you? I'm sure I posted.
One lady emailed me and I answered her query about her son, and it wasn't someone who was coming into adult services, they were going to a different service.
All right. Yeah, I know we have.
Sometimes it's that digging around, isn't it, and finding out, because it took me a while to sort of find out where that person had been sort of referred to.
Yeah, I know there's been a few questions come to us just generally regarding the whole transition from children's services to adult services and what exactly the processes are of it. Yeah,
and I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think it's far better planned when they're coming from children's inpatient services and they want to come into adult inpatient, because there has to be a degree of sort of crosswork and understanding, and the complexities are sometimes so high that often we do those things quite well. I think when they're coming from a CAMHS community team and may require community care, I think a lot of the work we need to do in that transitional phase is those people may still have complex mental health problems, but they might not warrant inpatient services at that time. But the greater understanding we can get, the more we can prepare people for coming into services and sort of almost manage people's expectations. So, we always try not to promise something that we couldn't deliver, because we set people up to fail if we do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the only frustrating thing is from a parent's point of view, because obviously we're all volunteers in MCT and things like that, and all of our times, like with anybody, not just ourselves, with any parent, it's like it feels like a constant fight and battle to get things done. Where I think I have seen a different side of it if your child is like looked after, or if you have social care involvement and things like that, because there is a transitioning team that sort of seem to take that on.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to get something like that for all of parent carers. Do you know what I mean? It's just a big shame.
I do know what you mean. It's totally frustrating, and I think that I think people are often surprised at what we offer or what we don't offer. And for me, the thing that comes across constantly is that sharing of information, I suppose, because the parents, particularly in CAMHS, often go from knowing a great deal of information. And if that service user in front of me says, I don't want you to share that, then I can't share that. But I always say to sort of staff, who will say, oh, I can't share this about confidentiality. I'll say, yeah, you can't. And you explain that at the outset, but you can listen to what that parent's got to say, because they've got an expertise that we will never have. And I think it's almost about acknowledging that expertise and trying to tap into that information so that we can get the best outcome and deliver the best care for their son, daughter.
Yeah, we've got a question for you. If somebody is waiting so long for CAMHS and becomes an adult before being seen, do they automatically transfer to adult services?
It would depend, is the answer to that. What we would probably say is we will offer an assessment at that stage. And we usually assess people within 28 days of the referral being received. There are exceptions to that. The exceptions being if somebody presented in an emergency, we can offer a crisis assessment, and our time frame for that is within 4 hours. So that would have to be somebody who, it was a mental health emergency, so somebody who was acutely suicidal and distressed, unable to keep themselves safe. They may end up needing a crisis team assessment. The outcome of that assessment might be discharged with nothing, no follow-up, depending on what the assessment is. It might be, yes, this person's going to need ongoing support, and we're going to refer you into one of our community mental health teams. And if, for example, you come in via a crisis team route, the crisis team may keep you on and provide some short-term interventions until a care coordinator from the community team is starting to work with you.
Right.
So I hope that answers that question. But yes, the minimum we could offer is an assessment.
Yeah, I think me only concern with that is I'm not sure whether she was querying if a child is down on a waiting list for CAMS, would they stay with CAMS no matter, even if they turned a certain age, or would they be took off the waiting list once they get to a certain age?
I can't answer for CAMS. I'd be surprised if CAMS would keep them after the age of 18. I certainly do know CAMS have worked with people sort of 3 or 4 months longer, but it's very rare that they work any length of time past the age of 18. I would hope that if your child's on a CAMS waiting list, that you do get regular updates of where they are with the waiting list. And if they are approaching 18 and CAMS are saying, you know, we aren't going to be able to see this person before they're 18, this is what we're going to do with that referral. So it may go back to the original referrer, who is often the GP, or they may say, actually, we can see that this person's going to need ongoing support, so we're going to refer it over to our colleagues in adult mental health and ask for an assessment.
Yeah, yeah, we'll leave that one, because like you said, you're not really here to answer the CAMS side of things, I guess. It's more the adult side of things. But thank you very much.
No problem. If there's anything else I can help with, by all means, I'm happy for you to share my email address.
Yes, we'll pop up with this video when it's being shared and things. And thank you very much, Gillian.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Leave it up to you if you want to introduce yourself. Thank you.
So I'll just load up my thing and hopefully it doesn't break the system. Oh. I'm just about to say good morning, because yesterday I was on Monday I was on the morning slot, but no, we'll try that again. So good afternoon, and thank you for taking the time, obviously, to attend the virtual conference today. My name is Heidi, and I am the newly appointed SEND-IAS officer in Durham. I have been appointed to a newly created post to enhance the offer of support that SEND-IAS already have, while focusing on helping families with children and young people with autism or social communication difficulties with or without a diagnosis in County Durham. And for me, the most important thing to stress there is with or without a diagnosis. So I popped this slide in from Monday because I thought to myself, it's all good and well me talking about SEND-IAS. Maybe not everybody knows what SEND-IAS actually stands for. So it is Special Educational Needs and Disability Information, Advice and Support Service. Honestly, the longest title ever. So that's kind of who we are. Just a little quick recap, because the SEND-IAS team are a well-established team and they do a great job. We have a dedicated telephone helpline, email correspondence and telephone callback appointments, virtual appointments at the minute, which are hopefully going to phase out so we can go back to some face-to-face work, which would be great. I can't stress enough, if you phone us and nobody answers, please leave a voicemail or send us an email and somebody will get back to you. Sometimes it could just be that we're in a meeting and we can't quite answer the phone straight away. But if you leave a voicemail or send us an email, we'll obviously get back to you as soon as we can. A lot of families contact SEND-IAS because they're unhappy, frustrated, misled, overwhelmed, or just unsure. So we listen to that in confidence and offer impartial support to resolve disputes and dissatisfaction. We work with families to explore their options by offering accurate information and advice that is legally based within the SEND Code of Practice. Our role is to enable families to make informed decisions and know their options of what to do next. We work to promote effective communication between the family and the settings, services and the LA. So for example, between families and schools. We offer practical support for families to prepare for meetings, to be confident to express their views and wishes. We offer information to help families understand and have confidence in the graduated support to SEN inclusion, SEN support plans, funding, statutory assessments, and education healthcare plans. Families are still telling us that it's complicated and it's an overwhelming process for them, and they need to know what it all means for their child, and often this isn't the case. We offer support with written information, including parental requests for education, health and care plan assessments, parental views, young person's views and wishes. We offer information about health and social care provision for children and young people with SEND. Advice and support regarding SEND appeals, including forms and written preparations, and we can be asked to support families to go to tribunal. We share and signpost to information using the local offer and support that is available within County Durham. And we have been offering SEND workshops for parents and carers around how children are supported in school, SEND and the law, inclusions, exclusions, parent toolkits, and statutory assessments, including education, health and care plans. And hopefully we'll be able to continue delivering some of those workshops face-to-face once COVID regulations continue to move on. This is just a quick look at our website, which obviously anybody can access, and the links there obviously will be on the MCT page as well, just so people know what it looks like. And you can go into, there's a button that says contact us, where that will give you kind of a web form to fill in if you want to contact us through that. So a little bit about my role and what's happening with that. So my role's been commissioned with the objectives in mind to support families of children and young people within County Durham with autism or social communication difficulties. This support is regardless of whether there is a diagnosis in place or not. We are currently developing the role within the team to offer a central point of contact for families to access support, advice and signposting to services within the local area. We hope to support families to build their own skills and knowledge and to help develop better understanding of autism and communication difficulties. We aim to create resilience and strengthen parents and carers so that they can make the best choices for their children and young people. Alongside families and services like MCT, we hope that we can learn more around the barriers and challenges that face families and use this information to find gaps or duplications in services to further enhance support within County Durham. So lots of exciting things that we would like to bring through the role, and this is a little bit of coming soon, so kind of please watch this space. We are in the process of setting up a virtual autism hub website for County Durham, where families can access information and advice as a central point. This will have lots of information, activities and support located in one place, which means it's easier to find. So for example, if you are looking for a support group, you can go on there and look at the list, and all of the support groups around the county will be hopefully listed so that it's easier for you to find. When restrictions are lifted, we are hopefully going to move forward and set up a physical hub in Durham, a room that we can use where you can come and do drop-in sessions, coffee mornings, and there'll be information within the room that you can access, because not everybody, likes to get the information from computers. Once it's set up and running and we have an idea of what that looks like, we're hoping to use different buildings in County Durham to host drop-in sessions, to access support in all areas and not just the one that the central hub's in. I know Gillian and Jill mentioned earlier, we're consulting with the neurodevelopment pathway team to look how support can be offered to families during the assessment process and afterwards, and trying to put that on a needs basis, not a diagnosis basis, because for some and most families that process is a long process, and we want to be able to offer support beginning, middle, end, just when you need it. We would like to be able to put on some kind of coffee mornings, workshop sessions with partner agencies for families and carers to attend. And it'll be interesting to see the feedback that MCT gets from their poll today to see if that's something that we can support with. So that's just a little bit about what's coming soon. And hopefully, like I say, if anybody has any suggestions or things that they think that would be really useful, I would be more than happy to hear those to see if we can get them working in County Durham. So as always, if you're a family, parent, carer or a young person and you feel like you could use some support from SendIS, please contact the team. The helpline is 0191 587 3541 and the email address and the website address is on the screen. I've also included my details for anyone who would like to give me any suggestions and feedback around how you think we could continue to develop the support offer in County Durham. Well, thank you for your time today, and I hope you enjoy listening to the rest of the speakers, though I'm not sure how many there are after me, but thank you for taking your time today to come along.
Next up, we have Alison. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I just say I came in partway through Heidi's presentation there, and we are very excited about Heidi's role. I think she's got so much to offer, and if we actually, if she manages, no pressure Heidi, but she actually manages to do what we've in our overexcited little heads got for that role to do, which is huge. It'll be fabulous and it will make a real significant difference, I think, to the support on offer for families and children and young people in County Durham. So we're really excited about that. But I'm going to try and share my screen, which I've never done on Zoom. So let's see how far we get. Oh, I need to press share down there. Okay, can someone just give me a nod that that's working? I'll try and put it on a slideshow.
Yep, that's fine like that.
Right. I'll just try and put it on a slideshow. Of course, I updated my computer to Office 365 at the beginning of the week, which doesn't help because everything's just a little bit different.
Perfect.
Right, lovely. Thank you, Amy. Thank you. So I'm here today, and I know you were expecting Laura Coulthard, our SEND DCO, but she's off work at the moment, so you've got me instead. I'm Alison Ayres, and I'm a commissioning manager. I work for the North of England Commissioning Support Unit, which is the bit that it'll say at the bottom of the screen, I should think. But I work for County Durham Clinical Commissioning Group as part of the Children, Young People's and Families Commissioning team. So I'm going to give you a short presentation today and hopefully have a bit of discussion about what our priorities are in this Children, Young People and Families Commissioning team. And I have got a little ask for the MCT group at the end, which I'm not able to give too much detail about just because I only came out of the meeting half an hour ago and thought I'm coming in here, I'm going to use the opportunity to ask you for something. And it's only a small ask, just one meeting, so I will go into that a bit more detail at the end because I need some input into something, I think.
If it's Alison, just sorry to interrupt you, if it is just for us MCT, do you want to hang around till the end or is it for the wider parent viewing?
The bit that I want from you could be for wider parents as well.
Right.
For everybody.
No, that's fine. It's just obviously we've got like attendees watching live at the moment, so it was just. Yes, that's true. Thank you. Yes, but it would be for anybody. I need a group of parents, carers, and hopefully young people as well to give me some views on something. Right, because this is also getting recorded and it'll be played on our YouTube channel, so this will be watched after the fact.
Okay.
So just letting you know that as well.
Right. Okay. I'll try and keep that in mind and try and be clear about the timescales because that does change things. Right. Okay. Thank you, Amy.
Not to worry.
Right. Okay. So we are at the moment an integrated team. I'm going to go through what that means, what it's about and why we've done it. I'll look at the priority projects that we're looking at delivering for this year. And I'll talk a little bit as well about some of our, what we refer to as our business as usual, which is the stuff that's not projects, is just your general day-to-day work that you just get on with. And then talk a bit about how we decided our priorities and what we're going to do next. So the integrated team is an idea that's come about from a number of different things. We've got the SEND Code of Practice there that a number of you will be familiar with, and that had that, as well as the Children and Families Act, was very clear about the idea of joint commissioning, and integration really is the next step on from joint commissioning. So for joint commissioning, you'd have two separate organisations, Durham County Council and the Clinical Commissioning Group, coming together to jointly commission a service. If you're integrated as an integrated commissioning team, we do everything jointly. We have got some precedent locally, so we've got adult community integrated teams, which some of you might be aware of, and that's been very successful in looking after particularly our more elderly population. And there's the white paper as well, which I know Sarah Burns was talking to you about earlier this morning. So I won't go into that in any detail, but you'll be aware that actually that's really pushed on the idea of integration. And the reference to that would be the place-based work that she's probably talked about today. So we're integrating as the council commissioning team and the CCG commissioning team. We've also got contract and provider management, which are really the people who manage the contracts that we have in place across the council and the CCG. Mental health is in the mix, as well as the physical health elements. We've got some of public health, but not all of public health. I couldn't list for you exactly which is in and which is out, because it's a bit outside of my area of expertise. And it is all ages. So it goes right from cradle to grave, as you would expect. And part of my challenge is to make sure that the children's voice is heard loudly in all of that. So we look after children, young people and families, which includes our paediatric services from the acute trusts, so from CDDFT, from North Tees, from Sunderland, and our paediatric therapies teams. We've got maternity in with us, we've got SEND, we've got autism, and the individual packages of care for people who have much more significant needs, as well as children's social care and education services. Children's mental health and learning disability is still part of the Mental Health and Learning Disability Partnership across County Durham, Darlington and Tees Valley, which doesn't fit particularly neatly, because really the mental health partnership was set up a number of years ago and was very much ahead of the game. So now integration has come in, and it's pulling in a slightly different direction to the footprint of the Mental Health and Learning Disability Partnership, which is tricky at the moment, but as things work out, we'll work it through and we'll figure a way of working it out. But it's not the neatest fit for us just now. So some of our project priorities that we're looking at for this year, we've got the paediatric therapies transformation, which is where we're looking at linking much more closely together our occupational therapy, physiotherapy, speech and language therapy teams, and as well creating a much more integrated service with our special schools, because that's what a lot of our parents have said that they want to see. So we're working on doing that. We're also working on developing a neurodevelopmental pathway, and this has come primarily actually from some feedback from the MCT group, who were really quite vocal in saying that the system wasn't working, there wasn't any post-diagnostic support, there was various different reasons why the system as it stood really wasn't working. So we're looking to change that and create a neurodevelopmental pathway, which will enable much easier access to support while you're waiting. And of course, that's even more pertinent now because the waiting times for some neurodevelopmental diagnosis are really quite significant because COVID put a stop to a lot of diagnostic processes. So we've got to sort that one out. Continuity of carer and maternity transformation is a lot of that maternity work. The continuity of carer is about having the same midwife through pregnancy and one with you when you're giving birth as well. So that gives much better outcomes and a much better experience for mothers and families, and much better outcomes for babies. And maternity transformation, a lot of that is about the Ockenden report that some of you might have heard of. And that's the report from a review into excess maternal deaths and baby deaths that happened, and I can't remember now exactly where it was, but that's the work to make sure that that's implemented here within County Durham. When the Ockenden report came out with the recommendations, we actually had pretty much done them all, so we were in a really good place from those recommendations already. But there's always work to do, isn't there? There's always improvements that can be made. We're also looking at personal health budgets and personalising things. We've got quite a robust system in place for personal health budgets for children who are entitled to continuing care, and also adults that are entitled to continuing health care. For everybody else, there's not a good enough offer at all at the moment. So in order to develop that, we're looking at the moment to develop an offer that's related to education, health and care plans. So we'll look at that as the next sort of group of people as an expansion, and then once we've got that sorted out, we'll go on and expand that offer of personal health budgets from there. We're reviewing as well equipment aids and adaptations in schools, because it's something that we need to look at. It's been needing to be looked at for a little while now. I mean, if you think about it, we've got hundreds of schools across County Durham. There's over 300 of them. So you've got essentially 300 ways of starting that process to get equipment aids and adaptations through. There's all sorts of issues about who owns the equipment, what happens as the child grows, what happens to that piece of equipment, can it be reused? So there's a huge piece of work going underway to make that much more efficient and effective for everybody. We've got our accommodation sufficiency strategy, which is a statutory requirement for the council, the local authority, to have, which basically requires them to be sure that they have sufficient accommodation for the children that they look after in the system. So that's quite a significant piece of work. We're looking at short breaks as well, and I'm sure a lot of you have been impacted by the difficulties with the offer of the short breaks provision, particularly during COVID. So we need to look at that, and there was a whole heap of work that a colleague was doing on that, which was scuppered by the COVID pandemic, and we're picking that up again. The PAUSE programme, this is a bit outside my area now. That's a programme that looks at parents who have consecutive pregnancies very quickly and have those children taken away, so that they potentially to try and encourage a pause between pregnancies to therefore increase the likelihood that subsequent children will be able to stay with the birth parents. So we're looking at doing that. You might have seen in the news a week or two ago, it all merges into one, doesn't it? Percy Headley being on the news, that we're reviewing some and auditing some of the Percy Headley provision. For those of you that don't know, sorry, Percy Headley is one of the out-of-county special schools that we use for some of our most severely disabled children. So we're part of the review that's looking into that, as you would expect, because we do have some children that attend their educational settings. We're reviewing the sleep pathway, because Laura, as our DCO, had asked some questions about melatonin prescribing. Melatonin is the drug, the first line of medication that is given to help improve sleep, and we need to make sure that everything is in place as it should be around melatonin prescribing and review. And have we got enough non-medical interventions on offer, and are they used enough? Are they of good enough quality before people get to the point of prescribing melatonin? We're looking at advocacy as well. We do have some advocacy offers for children and young people, but we need to increase that, and we need to improve that. So we've got that as a piece of work as well. And we need to look at home to school transport as well, because that's we've been asked to look at that because it is hugely over budget at the moment. So we need to work out whether we've not allocated enough money to it, or are we saying that there's far too many people who are in that scheme who maybe don't need to be. It's quite early days with that yet, so I've no idea which way things are looking on that. But obviously, if we're over budget because we've not allocated it enough money, then we're just going to have a look at it and see how much money we actually need to allocate it so that it can stay within budget. Some of our mental health priorities from our mental health colleagues are around eating disorders, mental health in primary care, support teams in schools, and we've been doing a lot of additional community funding, as you can imagine, throughout the COVID pandemic. There's lots of pots of money that have come down, so we've been able to boost various individual services to provide some increased support to everybody during the COVID pandemic, and hopefully going on afterwards as well. So there's been an awful lot of work going on to increase the mental health offer to children and young people. And we are trying to focus on keeping that within the voluntary and community sector, so before people go into specialist services like CAMHS. Right, we'll move on to some of our business as usual items now. So we have a lot of send work goes on as our business as usual. Laura does all of her work under that. I do quite a bit of mine is under that business as usual. We have quite a significant number of people looking at accommodation and placement breakdowns. So this is when I looked after children when their placements break down and we need to find them somewhere else to live, or they're coming into care and we need to find them somewhere to live. So we do quite a lot of that, and it has unfortunately increased significantly during the COVID pandemic. The family health service is the 0 to 25 service that is health visitors and the team that used to be called school nurses. So that's a relatively new service, so that's been mobilised now and that's operating as business as usual. Children's palliative care is something that we're looking at. We're doing a piece of work around engagement because we don't think we talk to our young people or our parents, carers and family members enough to be able to say confidently that you are driving our agenda. So we're doing a piece of work to make sure that we improve that. We do a lot of quality monitoring of education settings, social care, provision and care homes, which takes quite a significant amount of time. And we do quite a bit of coordination of some of those placement agreements to education settings and social care settings. A lot of contract monitoring, as you can imagine. There's an awful lot of contracts in there that we have. We do a lot of contract monitoring. And the short break offer as well, responding to families' needs around the short break offer to make that a responsive service. So we got a lot of these things from the SEND Health Needs Assessment, which is a piece of work the SEND Strategic Partnership commissioned. It's probably a couple of years ago now. It feels like it was only yesterday. But we've got a lot of it from there. We had the Ofsted and CQC revisit just last year. And although that was a successful visit, we'd made sufficient progress against our areas of weakness that were identified in the 2017 inspection. There's always improvements that can be made, and they had some further recommendations for us. We do act on feedback that we get from MCT and from other groups as well, but we don't get much other groups, which is why we're doing the work about engagement to make sure that we improve that a bit. We've got a load of statutory requirements that are in there, but a lot of that stuff, like the sufficiency strategy, is stuff that we just have to do. Some of that stuff is pre-COVID work that we paused when we were responding to the COVID pandemic, and now we're restarting that. We deliver a lot of those county-wide strategies as well, and some of them are around national development, the things like the Ockenden report that comes down that we just have to do. So the what next, this is an annual work plan. So we'll deliver this work plan, and then towards the end of the year, probably after Christmas, we'll start thinking about what we're going to do next. Place-based commissioning is going to, Sarah was talking to you about earlier, that's going to really drive some of what we do when we get some more clarity around what exactly is place-based commissioning. And the engagement and co-production is going to be a big element of it. And that, for me, really, that's the bit that we just simply need to get better at. We need to make sure that some of these work plans are genuinely co-produced, because at the moment, we've got what we've got, and we need to do what we've got, because it's come from the statutory settings and a lot of the pre-COVID work. But going forwards, we need to make sure that it's actually driven by what our children, young people and families and carers actually want us to do, and where you feel that the gaps are. So that's what we need to do. That's why we need to get better at that engagement and co-production aspect. And I think that's all I was going to say, really, as such. The next part is just to see if you've got any questions. And I will mention at this point, so if you're listening to the recording of this on YouTube, this probably isn't a bit for you, but I would like to have a small working group to look at some of these strategic planning documents. There's a particular one that I need to do. Now, I think I need to do it over the summer by, I want to say, the 21st of September. And we've got some, I'll be able to produce a document that I'll just need to come and talk to you about, because it's the third year of a 5-year plan. So we are partway through it, so we can't change huge amounts of it, but it's part of starting that discussion. So if anybody does want to be involved in that, or to get any further information on that, I'm a bit hesitant and hazy about it at the moment, because like I said at the beginning, I've only been half an hour out of the meeting where I started thinking that it would be a good idea. So I need to, if anyone wants to be part of that, if you want to get in touch with me, Amy has my email address, and if there's anywhere that I can share it with you, Amy, that you can share it with the participants, then I'm quite happy to do that, unless anybody's got any questions for me.
I tell you what we could do, Alison, we could just ask people who are watching this or who are involved now, if you are interested in taking part in looking at things, then if they forward their email address to ourselves, we could get it all collated. And then
that'd be helpful. Yeah,
if we get it all collated and everybody's details together, and then we can link you into the email. And
yeah, okay, that'd be fabulous. That would work. Yeah, I think I'm only going to want one meeting with you to have a discussion, so it'll be an hour, perhaps an hour and a half of everybody's time on one occasion. I think, if I'm wrong, we might have to do that twice. But
what we can do is we can get everything together. I don't know whether it might be easier if you put something down on paper. We'll share it onto Facebook via our email account, and then we'll get feedback from parents who are interested, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll have a think, and I'll put something down so that it's clearer what the ask is and what I expect of people, and then if you can share that, that would be fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah, just gives a bit more. I don't want to get emails going, what am I signing up for again?
Yes, and or nobody will sign up because they don't know what they're signing up to.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, if we get that together, and then if you forward me it, and I'm sure it's Sarah popped onto Facebook, things like that.
Yeah, lovely. I'll stop sharing my screen now. Has anyone got any questions for me? I know it's a big forum, so I don't know if anybody will be happy to put their head above the parapet and ask me a question.
To be perfectly honest, Alison, there is quite a few people, I think, that have asked a few questions this morning, and I don't know whether they'll come back to you just yet or whether it'll be after.
Okay.
It's been a manic day. But what I'm sure what we'll do is anything that comes through via the info at mctdurham.co.uk or via Facebook. We'll forward it straight to you and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just
responses.
Let me know.
Right. Thank you very much, Alison.
Fabulous. Thank you for having me.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye. Right. Next we have, but definitely not by no means least, we have Laura.
Hello there.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Nice to be here, and it's been great listening to everything. It's I'm here when you've had a bit of a manic day, so I'm guessing you're ready for some meditation and relaxation. Yes. Am I right?
Yes, I've been looking forward to this all day.
Good stuff.
Definitely needed.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, I'll mute myself and I'll let you introduce yourself and let you crack on. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name's Laura Ann Hind, and I am a facilitator and coach in mindfulness, and I'm going to introduce a little bit of mindfulness to you today. And I meant to say I work for a little company called Time for Calm, which is a community interest company. So we do work in the community, and it's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, it's come to the end of the day, and I'm sure you're ready for some little bit of relaxation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my slide on for now. And I'm not going to do everything that I did the last time because I know that time is ticking, but we will definitely be doing some meditation. I feel that's the right thing to do today. So if you just give me a moment and I'll see if I can get my slide up. Oh, here we go. So here we are from the beginning. Can everyone see that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so just for this little session, this little workshop, which is, as I say, it's a brief workshop. Some of you might have already done mindfulness before or done some meditation, but I'm just going to do a little introduction for those that haven't. And we're just going to cover what mindfulness is, talk about the monkey mind and what we can do to quieten it, and reflect on our inner meerkat, and do some reflections and talk about the biggest takeaway you can take from today. Okay, so the monkey mind. Now I can ask you questions if you all know what the monkey mind is, but if you want me to, but if you do have a question, just speak up. But I'm just going to talk about mindfulness and the monkey mind. But as we get started, just have a little reflect on what you think monkey mind is, and how it impacts on your life if you do know what it is. Just have a little think there for a moment. And if anyone's just got one little comment, one thought about what monkey mind is, just please speak up. No? Well, what I'll do is I'll explain what monkey mind is. Monkey mind is basically, how busy we have a busy mind, really, really busy. I'll kind of explain. For me in the past, it's like I had a bit of a chaotic life because I was reacting to every thought that went through my head, everybody's behavior, and my mind used to be like jumping from one thought to the next, and I was reacting to it. So I had a bit of a chaotic life. And I realized this. When I realized this, I needed to start practicing something to help calm my mind down. Now, you might identify it from, say, for instance, have you ever found yourself running up the stairs and you get to the top and you're like, what are I coming here for? You can't remember, and you have to go all the way back down the stairs again and retrace your steps. Or it's like when you're getting in and you throw your keys down and you move on to something, maybe reaching for something out of the fridge or whatever, and the next morning you can't find your keys. And it's like you think there's something wrong with my memory. I can't remember a thing. It's not that you can't remember. Most of the time it's because we have so many thoughts jumping from one thing to the next, and it's become a habit. It's like we want to get something over with to move on to the next thing, or we're thinking too much about the past or the future, and we're very rarely in the present. So mindfulness is actually all about being fully present, being here in the now. I mean, even if I just ask you right this moment, Just notice where your mind has wandered. You know, you may find that it has wandered. It's not a judgment call. It's about just noticing, yeah, I can't keep, why can I not just stay still? Why can I not just stay still and listen? But no, our mind is in such a habit of thinking. And it is a habit, you know, thoughts are not you, thoughts are habits. And but there is a way to calm this monkey mind down and bringing some peace into our lives. Now, I normally show a little YouTube clip, but last time I was like, I think it was a little bit, I got a little bit disorientated with the computer. So I think we'll just pass it this morning because we'll focus on doing some meditation. Now then, so yeah, constantly being interrupted by external distractions has literally caused our mind to jump around like crazy monkeys, preventing us from paying attention to what is happening now, which is what I've just explained. So I don't know whether you've tried this or not. If you haven't, you know, it may be a new idea to you, but what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to sit comfortably in your chair and we'll have a little go at doing some formal meditation. This is actually the formal practice of mindfulness. It helps your mind to stay mindful, like stay present. And what it does, it creates a gap in the thinking. So when we're focusing on we're going to focus on our breathing, use our breath as an anchor. We actually create a gap in our thinking. And you know, when you create that gap in your thinking, oh, it's so peaceful. And your body reacts to it. It's like, oh yeah, this is peaceful. So the body's resting as well as the mind. So this is a great opportunity to try this out. Okay. But what I thought I'd do as well, I've got a little, it's a 3-minute timer. I don't know whether you can see it, but I use a 3-minute egg timer to help focus as well. And we're going to use a meditation that we're going to broaden our awareness, narrow it and broaden it. So what I invite you to do is sit comfortably now in your chair and have your feet on the floor if you possibly can. And imagine you're sitting dignified. Imagine, yeah, you're sitting dignified, like you're a king or a queen on your throne, you know, so you're upright, shoulders back, but relaxed, okay? And just rest your hands on your lap. And what we'll do is I'll chime the bell once to start, and then I'll chime it 3 times to finish. And all I invite you to do is just follow my voice and just go with the flow of your breath, okay? So here we go. So I'd just like to invite you to close your eyes right now and just notice your breathing. Now, we're not looking to change anything or make anything happen. Just noticing how the body feels as you're breathing. Now you notice each in breath and each out breath. And just becoming aware, maybe of the temperature in the room, the sounds that's going on around you. But try not to label anything or judge anything. Just notice and allow the sounds and any thoughts, if they appear, just pass on through like clouds in the sky. And then refocus, just stay focused, bring your attention to your breathing. So really connect, imagine your breath as an anchor. So notice in each in-breath and notice in each out-breath. And just maybe become aware of how the body rises and falls with each in-breath and out-breath. If you do notice your mind wanders into thinking or planning or judging, just notice it's happened and gently and kindly bring your attention back to focusing on breathing. Just maybe being aware of how your body and your belly expands a little with each in-breath and expands a little with each out-breath. Now what I invite you to do now is I'd like you to imagine a 3-minute timer, just while you're sitting peacefully. Bring to your mind's eye a 3-minute timer and just notice how it broadens at the top and narrows in the middle and broadens on the outer further down. And what I'd like you to do while you're imagining this, I'd like you to broaden your awareness and really kind of connect with what is going on around you. So I invite you to open your eyes now and just look around. Just look around your room. Not judging or comparing or making any comparisons at all. Just being aware, taking in, noticing sights, sounds, temperature. Just really connecting to your senses of what is going on around you. And now what I'd like you to do is close your eyes again and focus back on your breathing. So this is narrowing your awareness. So coming back to focusing on the breath. But I invite you this time to focus on a word. I'd like you to think of a word that you're going to take in with each in-breath that soothes you, that calms you. So just imagine as you breathe in, I'm breathing in calm. And when you breathe out, imagine what you want to reflect out of yourself as you breathe out. So this could be peacefulness. So breathing in calm, breathing out peacefulness. But you think of your own word. So just find that word that you can use for yourself, that really take it in. And it soothes you, it softens you. Imagine feeling so gentle and relaxed as you say the word as you breathe in. And then when you breathe out, imagine what you want to reflect out onto others. It could be kindness, it could be compassion, it could be love. But you find your word and just spend a moment breathing in that word and breathing out that word. And just allow that flow, that gentle flow, just going in and out. And you notice how the body is starting to relax a little. And now I invite you to imagine encompassing the whole of your body. So imagine now you're broadening your awareness from the breath now to cover your whole body in awareness. Just noticing any sensations in the body, how it's feeling. And just imagine cradling your whole body in awareness. Or cradling in the words you've been using for yourself. Maybe you've cradled yourself in sunshine. And just sit there for a moment, feeling loved, feeling comforted and warm. And just notice how the mind is settled in the body and the body is settled on the chair that's been supported by the ground. Just one place, one moment. There's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do. Just being with what is right now in the present moment. You just gently and very slowly bring yourself back into the room. There's no rush, just slowly bring some awareness and notice how you're feeling right now. If anyone would like to share any thoughts on that short meditation, especially if you've never done it before, it'd be lovely to hear your thoughts.
Do I really have to come back into the room, Laura? I always get goose pimples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it? Well, how our body reacts to something new, because we're so busy rushing around and dealing with things and having to think about things, and to just be able to sit still, literally sit still for a while is quite alien for the mind and the body, but it's a welcome change.
I must admit, I do like guided meditation more than just sitting and listening to something, because my mind just takes over.
It does, and it trust me, it is a habit of thought. When we're so busy and we're thinking all the time and thinking of the next thing we need to do, it's such a habit. So what I thought we'd do is we'll just talk a little bit about what causes us to overreact and think too much, because that's what we tend to do. When we overthink, we overreact because it's where the body is reacting to every thought. So thinking about what causes us to overreact or trigger, there's an area which we'll talk about, area in our brain, that when we see a spider, I haven't got a problem with spiders. I have a 6 foot son who literally is terrified of them, and he's, I'm getting this out of the bath, and you're like, oh man, but you see there's something is causing the trigger. Uncertainty, we've been living in such a time of uncertainty, and being able to stay present and acknowledge that, that we do go through uncertainty. Oh my goodness, and that mini heart attack when you have sent the text message to the wrong person, goodness me, I don't know how many times I've wanted to throw myself down the phone and try and grab it back, And this is the culprit here, this little tiny little almond-shaped part of the brain called the amygdala is what causes it all. It literally, it sends, it puts us into little panic mode when it senses anything that feels a little scary, and it floods our body with cortisol. And before you know it, we're in fight, flight, or freeze mode, and really gets us overreacting. The purpose of today is to really explain to you about mindfulness and how it can help us. So for Time for Calm, there's 3 elements. There's mindfulness, which is an attitude and a way of being that cultivates a strong connection to being present in the moment and our surroundings by using all our senses without judgment. Meditation is a practice that you can train you to develop mindfulness, which connects mind and body. And positive reflections retrains our mind to focus on the good we already have in our life. And thinking about that, there's many times that we, if we ask people how the day is, that quite often our mind is very good at remembering all the things that didn't go well. But there is so much still to be grateful for, or the positives that's happened. So even in this moment, if I ask you, can you think of one positive from this whole session, this whole day that you've experienced? What one positive you can take away? Really reflect on it just for a moment. And if you've got a pen and paper, please write it down. And as you're reflecting on that, because sometimes many people say, I can't think of anything positive, especially if they've had a very challenging day, and it sometimes can be tricky. But with practice, seriously, at the end of the day, before you go to sleep, even if you just write and retrain your mind to think of one positive thing from the day, or at least one thing you could be grateful for, can be the start of a mindful practice. So I've just got a couple of bubbles to show you now from people who's started the practice of mindfulness. One lady who was a parent of a 14-year-old daughter, she said, I've stopped trying to get everything done in one day. I now leave things and rest without feeling guilty. I don't overthink as much, and I share more with others to stop this. because we often find, especially as parents and carers, and we feel guilty if we even think about looking after our own needs, but we are vital. It is so important to look after your own needs so that you can stay well, fit and strong to help others. So this is how it works. You know, it's so important that we take care of our well-being so we can be there for others. The practice has helped me stay calm during rush hour. Now, instead of getting road rage, I just focus on the car radio and listen to the music. I just don't waste my energy in anger. I've learned to let it go. And that was someone who works and has a parent of a toddler. And it's tricky to let things go, but you know, but when we catch ourselves, if we stay present and catch ourselves, so when the feeling of, you know, sense the feeling of anger or judgment or whatever's coming up, it's being able to breathe, you know, have a big belly breath and like, it's okay. You know, we see animals doing it all the time. You know, you see them they have a shake or they have a, you know, because you hear people saying that, give yourself a shake, but you see animals doing it all the time, don't you? But I suggest belly breathing, like a good belly breath, kind of calms you down, activates the vagus nerve to calm us down, and we can relax and go, it's okay, everything's fine. I can manage this. And it is about managing ourselves, you know. Now, I've just touched on this takeaway, the positive, so I've already covered this. But I hope that this little session, because it's only a short one, has been helpful for you. And even just having that 5 minutes of just sitting closing your eyes. But if you want any more information about making time for calm, please get in touch with Anne and you know, or Heidi, anyone you know that you have the connection with, and get in touch. And I can always come along and do a taster session for you, or run a little talk on it. Okay, but thank you very much. I hope it's been of help, and I'll leave you to it. But thank you again.
Thank you very much, Laura. I think I could do with now the sun's come back out again, some grounding things just in the middle of nowhere. I think I could do with that.
Oh, absolutely. It's beautiful now. It was gorgeous morning, then the rain's come. But you know, even if you smell all that grass, I've been outside, it's so lovely to smell fresh cut grass on a damp day. It's so lovely.
Thank you very much, Laura. Right, just before everybody goes, we do have a raffle to draw. Sarah and Victoria, are you guys?
Yeah.
Champion. If you guys want to go ahead and draw the raffle.
Yeah. First one, 15. And that's Kath.
Anybody froze, or is it?
I think Sarah has. No, I was waiting for you to say who it was.
Oh, she did.
Kath. Oh, Kath, I'm happy. Next one, number 6. Emma. Number 2. That's Gillian.
Which Gillian?
Gillian K.
Right.
Number 4. That's Susan. And last one, number 8. Oh, well, last but not least, that's you, Sarah. Is it? All right.
So that's our five raffle prizes drawn. We will be using, I can't remember what we said on Monday.
We'll be sending, we've got some little prizes made up, and we'll be sending them out in the post. So you should get them next week.
Yes, to the addresses that they
registered with.
Yeah, that they registered with Eventbrite. So hopefully, yes, everything's gone to plan. Thank you very much, everybody. Another hopefully successful conference down. And yeah, we'll be in touch with the links for the YouTube videos, any questions and feedback that we have regarding the session. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.